revive the markets. This time it will be tricky in my view, because अभी तक क्या होता था कि मनी प्रिंटिंग आप करते थे और उसके बाद उससे मार्केट्स रिवाइव हो जाता था, बट व्हाट वी हैव सीन इन दिस साइकिल इज मनी प्रिंटिंग से इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ने लगता है. In post COVID, the Fed did almost $5 trillion of QE, और उससे we got US inflation went up to 9.2% by June of 2022. So if money printing leads to inflation, then money printing Fed will not be able to continue, which is why in 2022 Fed had to abandon QE. So we'll have to see this time whether Fed is able to support the markets sufficiently or not, or is it that before the Fed is able to revive the economy, if inflation kicks in earlier than that, then that will be a very tricky situation. So
and which level of unemployment rate you will be comfortable with, Indraanil ji? Like now it's 4.4% in US, right? Do you have again a number like above 5%? We need to be extremely careful, or it's the rate of change?
No, so unemployment level in itself, I don't think there is a magic level above which you can say that this is consistent with recession levels. I think by definition, recession means two consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, and more often than not, GDP. A particular quarter was a recession. The way this works in US is there's an entity called NBER, National Bureau of Economic Research. They look at the data retrospectively, and then after, usually based on past data, they usually declare that a certain period was a recession. And by the time they declare a certain period was a recession, the recession is usually already over. So, for example, in 2008, the recession started in January of 2008, ended in October of 2008. NBER pronounced that this was a recession only in December of 2008, by which time the recession was already over. So, officially, we will know, by the time we know the recession, it was a recession, the recession will be over. So that's why you need some proxies of other proxies to figure out how and when recession starts. So that's why I lay a lot of emphasis on things like move index and high yield spreads, because they are, I'll cover them in my presentation. So just hold on for a while. Does that cover? Otherwise, I'll start my presentation.
Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Everybody is able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
आपको दिख रहा है?
Yes.
Thank you. तो मैं जैसे कह रहा था कि अभी एक वॉर सिचुएशन चल रहा है, एंड पिछले एक हफ्ते से मुझे लगता है कि वॉर सिचुएशन, इफ एनीथिंग, has become worse. US and Israel on one side, Iran on one side, both of them have taken very entrenched position. दोनों में से कोई भी अभी बैक आउट नहीं कर रहा है. There is no signs कि either side is willing to negotiate a ceasefire. तो ऐसे सिचुएशन में फिर somebody mentioned that oil prices are the biggest casualty is oil prices, and oil prices are going up, and if it continues to go up, then obviously that's it's not a good thing for global economy for our economy. So how do you decide कि अभी जो चल रहा है ये वॉर इंडियन इक्विटी मार्केट्स के ऊपर इसका क्या इफेक्ट पड़ने वाला है? तो मेरा सीधा व्यू है कि मैं ऑयल भी नहीं देखता हूँ, मैं इक्विटी भी नहीं देखता हूँ. मैं सबसे पहले जो चीज देखता हूँ वो है बॉन्ड मार्केट, कि बॉन्ड मार्केट क्या कह रहा है. बिकॉज मेरा ये लॉन्ग टर्म व्यू रहा है कि इक्विटी मार्केट्स में रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स ऑपरेट करते हैं बॉन्ड मार्केट में एसेंशियली इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स होते हैं हु आर एसेंशियली हु आर अ लॉट मोर सोफिस्टिकेटेड। तो उनके ट्रेडिंग से जो बॉन्ड मार्केट से एक सिग्नल निकल के आता है वो उसका मैं हमेशा इक्विटी मार्केट के सिग्नल से ज्यादा वैल्यू देता हूँ। तो लेट्स सी कि इक्विटी मार्केट बॉन्ड मार्केट से हमें क्या सिग्नल्स मिल रहे हैं। तो एंड व्हेन आई से बॉन्ड मार्केट, मैं बॉन्ड मार्केट में दो पैरामीटर्स को सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस देता हूँ। पहला है मूव इंडेक्स, दूसरा है जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड। सो लेट्स क्विकली गो थ्रू ये मूव इंडेक्स और बॉन्ड जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड अभी हमें क्या कहने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। सो पहले देखते हैं मूव इंडेक्स को। तो मूव इंडेक्स क्या है? आप में से जो भी ट्रेडिंग करते हैं आपको आपने इसके बारे में सुना आपने विक्स के बारे में सुना होगा। विक्स इज बेसिकली विक्स represents the volatility of the equity markets। तो विक्स के तरह विक्स का जो इक्विवेलेंट है यूएस बॉन्ड मार्केट का, यूएस गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड मार्केट की वॉलेटिलिटी को ट्रैक करने का एक इंडेक्स है, दैट इज कॉल्ड द मूव इंडेक्स। इन अ वे इट्स द विक्स ऑफ द यूएस गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड मार्केट। मूव इंडेक्स को मैंने डिटेल्स में इस वीडियो में एक्सप्लेन किया था। ये वीडियो मैंने 9 नवंबर 2024 को पब्लिश किया था। तो अगर आप मतलब डिटेल में समझना चाहते हैं क्या है मूव इंडेक्स तो आप ये वीडियो जरूर देखिएगा। मैं इस लाइव सेशन का जब सब का रिकॉर्डिंग पोस्ट करूंगा तो मैं इस डिस्क्रिप्शन में इस वीडियो का लिंक भी डाल दूंगा। तो मूव इंडेक्स, एक्सक्यूज मी, पिछले 3 साल में दिस इज हाउ द मूव इंडेक्स हैज ट्रेंडेड। इन जनरल आप देख सकते हैं कि देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ अप्स एंड डाउन्स, बट इन जनरल मूव इंडेक्स नीचे की तरफ ही जा रहा है पिछले 3 साल से। मूव इंडेक्स को विदाउट गोइंग इनटू द डिटेल्स ऑफ the mechanics of move index, the only thing that I want to sort of reiterate here is the blue line that you see here is the nifty। निफ्टी और ब्लू लाइन निफ्टी है और रेड लाइन मूव इंडेक्स है। तो जैसा कि आप देख सकते हैं रेड लाइन और ब्लू लाइन ऑलमोस्ट एक दूसरे के मिरर इमेजेस है। जब मूव इंडेक्स ऊपर जा रहा होता है तो निफ्टी में एक करेक्शन आता है, और जब भी मूव इंडेक्स नीचे जा रहा होता है तो निफ्टी में स्ट्रॉन्ग रैलीज आते हैं। लास्ट टाइम हमें इस तरह का एक स्ट्रॉन्ग इनवर्स मूवमेंट देखने को मिला था अप्रैल 2025 में। अप्रैल 20 ऑन टू बी प्रिसाइज, अप्रैल 2025 में क्या हुआ था? Donald Trump started his trade war on 2nd April 2025. Donald Trump announced these sweeping tariffs on all trading partners of US on 2nd of April 2025, जिसके response में move index last that was the last time the move index shot up very very significantly। move index usually मैं 100 के ऊपर move index जब भी जाता है I become very very cautious। 120 according to me is a dangerously high reading। So the last time move index 120 के ऊपर गया था was back in April of 2025 after Donald Trump announced these sweeping tariffs on all trading partners of the US। And as you can see जैसे ही उन्होंने फिर 2nd April को ये अनाउंस किया, अब मूव इंडेक्स भी ऊपर गया और उसका रिएक्शन था कि इक्विटी मार्केट्स अराउंड द वर्ल्ड इंक्लूडिंग निफ्टी में एक अच्छा खासा करेक्शन हमको देखने को मिला। In fact, most bond market analysts believe that see move index going to 140. As I said, any reading above 120 means the move means bond investors are now doubting the US government's capability to repay, honor its bond obligation. So that's a very dangerous situation. Nobody in the US government wants any investor to ever have any doubts on the US government's capability to honor their bond obligation। And if the move index going shoots up, तो मूव इंडेक्स का 120 के ऊपर जाना एक तरह से दिखा रहा है कि बॉन्ड मार्केट अब डिसफंक्शनल हो गया है। तो ज्यादातर बॉन्ड मार्केट एक्सपर्ट्स का मानना यह है कि इट वाज द बॉन्ड मार्केट व्हिच फोर्स्ड डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प टू बैक डाउन इन अप्रैल। कि मूव इंडेक्स इतना ऊपर चला गया जिसके चलते डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प को बैकआउट करना पड़ा। ही हैड टू अनाउंस ऑन 8th of April that he is postponing the implementation of tariffs by 90 days। और आप देख सकते हैं कि जैसे ही उन्होंने so he gave that concession, so he effectively backed out immediately move index started to trend downwards, और तब से almost एक साल हो गया है, we can see that move index has only trended downward secularly since then. और उसका effect equity markets में क्या हुआ है, move index has gone down and equity markets have rallied towards the upside. move index का अभी क्या situation है? move index has move index went down all the way down to almost 63 was the lowest level, I think, in January of 2026. Since then, in fact, ये war के start होने तक भी about 70-75 के करीब था, and now it has gone up to 81. तो थोड़ा सा marginally move index ऊपर गया है. But as you can see, this is nothing compared to, this is not a sign that the bond market is panicking. Bond market distress में है, उसका signal होता है move index shooting up to above 100 and going above 120, as I said, is absolutely a danger sign. उसके मुकाबले we have gone up from about 65 to 81. So this is nowhere close to a level where the bond market is telling you that shit is about to hit the fan and sell everything and get out. I'm not saying कि यहाँ से things cannot change. If this war becomes more protracted, if Straits of Hormuz continues to remain closed for longer, things can change. But my point is, let's have a data-driven approach towards how we decide whether this is getting out of hand or not. मेरा view ये है कि this is something that was very handy for me. Last year भी ईरान और इजराइल के बीच में 12 दिन का एक बहुत serious conflict हुआ था in June of 2025. At that time also I found the move index to be very, very reliable. Even at that time, as you can see, around June of 2025, the move index continued to trend downwards, which for me was the clearest sign that ये war ज़्यादा दिन नहीं चलने वाला है पिछले साल. And the move index is pretty much telling the same thing even now. As of now, the move index is telling us that there is nothing to panic, and the bond market's view is that this situation will resolve itself sooner rather than later. I'm not saying it's a definitive signal. Things can change, and when things change, the move index will shoot up. If this so far move index has gone up from about 65 to 81, ये अगर 81 से 90 जाता है, 90 से 100 जाता है, तो हमें फिर cautious होना पड़ेगा. But as of now, even after one full week of conflict, if the move index is at 81, तो ये कोई danger का sign नहीं है अभी तक, right? So my view is that keep a very close watch on this. As of now, I don't think there is anything to panic about. But things can change. If ये अगर 81 से continuously और ऊपर जाता रहा, 90 तक गया, 100 तक गया, 100 के ऊपर गया, तब जाके मुझे लगता है कि we should start to think very seriously about taking a defensive posture possibly in our portfolios. But as of now, I don't think that there is anything to panic about. That is at least what the move index is telling us. Coming to the next bond market parameter, जिसको मैं बहुत closely track करता हूँ, इसको कहते हैं high yield spread. Again, मैं high yield spread क्या होता है इसको अभी समझाऊंगा नहीं, because इसमें बहुत समय चला जाएगा. मैंने high yield spreads क्या होता है इसको मैंने मेरे एक वीडियो में ऑलरेडी समझाया है. इस वीडियो को मैंने 12 अप्रैल 2025 को पब्लिश किया था. आप इस वीडियो का भी लिंक मैं डाल दूंगा डिस्क्रिप्शन में. तो आप लोग अगर समझना चाहते हैं कि high yield spread क्या होता है तो आप ये वीडियो देख के जरूर देखिएगा. So this is how high yield spread has trended over the last whatever 18 years or so, 2000 almost 20 years. 2007 के बाद से this is how high yield spread has gone up and down. Red line. The only thing I want to stress about high yield spread के बारे में एक चीज जो मैं reiterate करना चाहता हूँ कि ये जो blue line है ये है निफ्टी. तो अगेन हम देख सकते हैं मूव इंडेक्स की तरह हाई यील्ड स्प्रेड का भी निफ्टी के साथ एक इनवर्स रिलेशनशिप है. दे आर मिरर इमेजेस ऑफ ईच अदर. जब भी हाई यील्ड स्प्रेड सॉर्ट ऑफ जब भी हाई यील्ड स्प्रेड ऊपर जाता है निफ्टी नीचे जा रहा होता है एंड वाइस वर्सा. Another thing about high yield spread is historically high yield spread एक बहुत ही reliable leading indicator है of a upcoming recession in the US. Recession जैसे ही approach, once the US economy starts to approach a recession, the high yield spreads start to go up. Historically, high yield spreads going above 7% has always led to a recession in the US. To answer, there was one question before I started the session. What is it that the high yield spread is telling us about the upcoming recession? You can see where we are today. So the only major spike that we saw in recent times in high yield spreads in the last couple of years was in once again in April of 2025 जब Donald Trump ने अपना ये tariff announce किया था. That was the last time when high yield spreads went up to a level of just about 5%. So as you can see, 5% was a material spike, but by historical standards, 5% is not a very high level. And again, that was a confirmation for me कि इसके चलते कोई recession नहीं आने वाला है. And since then, as you can see, once again, after Donald Trump backed out and tariff implementations were postponed by 90 days, high yield spreads once again started to go down. I will just zoom into this chart, or I'll take a closer view of high yield spreads last year, April, May, how did they behave. As you can see on 2nd of April last year, Donald Trump ने अपने tariff announcement किया था. उसके एक हफ्ता पहले 24th March को high yield spread was at about 3%, 3.05. And they shot up to 4.61% by 7th April. That's 1 week after the tariff announcement. मतलब 2 हफ्ते के अंदर high yield spreads shot up by 150 basis points. So this is a very material jump. This kind of jump is what we have to be scared about. Even though this was a big jump, it went only up to, it didn't even touch 5. But the jump in itself was a sign that there is some distress in the bond market. And as soon as it went close to 5, Donald Trump backtracked, and उसके बाद से हम देख सकते हैं कि ये रेड लाइन वापस से नीचे आने लगा है. Compared to that, अभी current situation क्या है? As of 5th of March, the last week, Friday को end of trading, high yield spreads closed at just 3%. There's been for the better part of last 1 month, they were significantly below 3, about 2.6, 2.7 पे थे. ये वॉर के छिड़ने के बाद से 2.7 से ये 3 तक आया है. So hardly a half a basis point, half a percentage point increase is what we have seen in since the start of the war. Compared to that, as I said, again, the reason I'm showing this chart is to show you that the last time we had a material jump, that was during the tariff war start. उस समय high yield spread shot up from 3% to 4.6% in a matter of 2 weeks. So far, so that's a 1.1 percentage points jump in 2 weeks. So far, we have had the war going on for more than 1 week, and we have not even seen half a percentage jump in junk bond spreads, and junk bond spreads absolute levels continue to be at 3%. So again, this is signaling that ठीक है, spreads have gone up a little bit, but this is nowhere consistent with a level that there is anything to panic about at this stage. I'm not saying that sit back and relax. मैं सिर्फ कह रहा हूं कि इन दो पैरामीटर्स को क्लोजली ट्रैक करिए. ये दो पैरामीटर्स जब तक ये जंग बॉन्ड स्प्रेड 5% के ऊपर नहीं जा रहा है, तब तक मेरे हिसाब से कोई डेंजर का साइन नहीं है. मूव इंडेक्स जब तक 100 के ऊपर या 100 के आसपास नहीं आ रहा है, तब तक मेरे हिसाब से there is nothing to panic about. So these are two parameters which I look at very closely to decide whether I should take a seriously defensive posture in my client portfolios or not. Now coming to these are the two parameters which are telling me that so far there is nothing to panic about. Now coming to the other thing that I wanted to highlight was how did for whatever it's worth, let's have also a view of how did Nifty behave last year, जब जून में last time we had a conflict in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. So that conflict started on 13th of June 2025. As you can see, very curiously, the day the conflict started, that उस दिन market का bottom बन गया था 24,719 points. उसके एक उसके एक दिन पहले का मैं अगर वैल्यू देखूं, उसके एक दिन पहले निफ्टी वाज एट 24,888 पॉइंट्स ऑन 12th ऑफ जून. मतलब वॉर के स्टार्ट, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट के स्टार्ट होने के चलते निफ्टी में कितने पॉइंट, लेस देन 200 पॉइंट्स का करेक्शन आया. इफ आई गो बैक वन मोर डे विच इज 11th ऑफ जून, that on that day Nifty was at 25,141 points. मैं 2 दिन का भी अगर पूरा डिक्लाइन देखूं तो we are talking about a decline of barely about 400 points in the Nifty the last time we had the conflict starting. 400 points was about 1.6% decline because of the war starting. So far, the Nifty has in this time round, the dislocation in the we must accept that the ferocity of the attacks from both the sides has been far more severe. On the first day of the war, अली खोमेनी को मार दिया गया, जिसके चलते ईरान का रिटेलिएशन भी बहुत ज्यादा सीवियर रहा है, जिसके चलते वी हैव ऑलरेडी सीन इस वॉर के शुरू होने के बाद से ऑलमोस्ट आई थिंक 5% का करेक्शन हो ही चुका है, राइट? सो द क्वांटम ऑफ करेक्शन सो फार सीम्स टू बी बिग, बट again by historical standards these are not a 4-5-6% correction is not, ये तो मतलब हर 2-3 महीने में होता ही रहता है, right? The other important thing is last time अगर आप देखें 12 दिन तक वॉर चला था, and during the course of those 12 days Nifty's overall trend was towards the upside. On the day this war ended, 24th of June, the Nifty closed at 25,044 points, and ceasefire announced हुआ तो उसके बाद तो obviously एक बड़ा rally आना ही था, and we got this big rally, and so once the war ended, the Nifty actually ended at a level where it was ended at a level higher than where it was before the war started. तो मेरा बेस केस भी यही है कि मे बी द सिवियरिटी ऑफ द वॉर माइट बी हायर, सो वी माइट सी अ बिगर ड्रॉडाउन दिस टाइम, बट at some point in time, at least that's what the bond market according to me is telling us, ki this situation will get resolved sooner rather than later. और history tells us कि जब ये finally एक ceasefire situation आता है तो उसके बाद जो रिलीफ रैली आएगा, that will take the Nifty back to a level which is much higher than where it was before the war started. एक और possibility ये भी है is, again if I go back to the move index, कि if the war continues to linger on for too long, and if the war lingers for longer, we have had oil shooting up from $60 per barrel to $91 per barrel. तो 50% का जंप ऑलरेडी आ चुका है. ऑयल प्राइसेस आर डेफिनेटली, ये एक बड़ा, दिस इज अ एडवर्स सिग्नल. इस क्राइसिस का रेजोल्यूशन अगर लंबे समय तक नहीं होता है और ऑयल प्राइसेस 100 के ऊपर जाते हैं एंड कंटिन्यू टू क्लाइम एट सम, then there is a possibility that at some point in time rising oil prices can start to cause the bond market to panic and we could see a spike in the move index. But my view is that if it comes to that, अगर bond market फिर से 120 तक जाता है, that will be once again a cue for Donald Trump to figure out a way to de-escalate and end the war, as we saw last year when the trade war started, because no precedent in history has ever been able to take on the bond market and survive. और ये Donald Trump, for all his lunacy, you have to give it to him, he understands that math, that don't fight the bond market. Last time bond market 120 के ऊपर गया था, he knew that he should not stretch things beyond that, he immediately backed down. मुझे भी इस बार यही लगता है कि ऑटोमेटिकली अगर इस वॉर का रेजोल्यूशन खुद से नहीं होता है एंड दिस सिचुएशन गेट्स प्रोट्रैक्टेड फॉर very long and ultimately it starts to cause distress in the bond market, and once again if we see move index shooting up to 120 plus, I strongly feel that will lead to a situation where Donald Trump will figure out a way to de-escalate the situation and end the war. So this is what the move index and the bond market is telling us. I will take a anyway. There's one last part that I want to cover. Let me just cover that part, and then maybe I can I'll take a few questions. अभी तक मैंने जो कवर किया है, अभी तक मैंने जो आपको बताया वो था कि बॉन्ड मार्केट हमें कह रहा है कि अभी देयर इज नो रीजन फॉर अस टू पैनिक so far as yet. Now I want to quickly cover what is the larger picture and why I continue to remain bullish about equity markets once the war situation has been resolved. And the reason for that is what is the Federal Reserve doing right now. So Federal Reserve, as I have explained many times in my previous videos, is the central bank of US. It's the equivalent of what the Reserve Bank of India does here in India. सेम काम फेडरल रिजर्व यूएस में करता है. फेड के द्वारा जब फेड इज द एंटिटी व्हिच डिसाइड्स हाउ मेनी न्यू यूएस डॉलर्स आर सपोज्ड टू बी प्रिंटेड इनटू एग्जिस्टेंस. इसके बारे में मैंने एक फेड का ग्लोबल लिक्विडिटी पे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है, ये मैंने मेरे एक 13 दिसंबर 2025 के वीडियो में एक डिटेल वीडियो बनाया था. आप लोग उस वीडियो को देख सकते हैं. But what I want to sort of to summarize what I had talked about in that video, ये जो लाइन है, ये लाइन को कहते हैं Fed's balance sheet size, red line. In layman's terms, this line represents कि Fed ने कितने नए यूएस डॉलर्स प्रिंट किए हैं पिछले 2008 के बाद से. जब भी ये रेड लाइन ऊपर जा रहा है, इसका मतलब है कि by that much amount, Fed has created new US dollars, right? पिछले 20 साल में हम देख सकते हैं कि 2 बार ऐसा हुआ है कि जब ये रेड लाइन बहुत तेजी से ऊपर गया है. जब भी ये रेड लाइन बहुत तेजी से ऊपर जा रहा होता है तो इस प्रोसेस को कहा जाता है क्वांटिटेटिव ईजिंग, QE. This is when the Fed is printing new dollars into existence at a very very fast pace. ऐसा 2 बार हुआ है. Both the times this happened in the aftermath of 2 very severe recessions when the Fed wanted to give liquidity support to US capital markets as well as to the economy. पहली बार 2008 के रिसेशन के बाद QE हुआ था और कोविड सेकंड टाइम कोविड के बाद QE हुआ था. और why does this matter? This matters because the blue line that you see on the screen right now is the Nifty in India. तो हम देख सकते हैं कि निफ्टी और रेड लाइन का एक बहुत टाइट रिलेशनशिप है. जब भी ये रेड लाइन ऊपर जाता है तो ये ब्लू लाइन भी ऊपर जाता है. तो होता ये है कि यूएस में जब भी मनी प्रिंटिंग होता है तो उसमें से जो कुछ पैसा और सम ऑफ द न्यूली क्रिएटेड डॉलर्स वो एफआईआईज इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स में लाके इन्वेस्ट करते हैं. तो इंडिया जैसे इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स में भी इससे एक लिक्विडिटी कंडीशंस में इंप्रूवमेंट आता है जब एफआईआई नया पैसा नए डॉलर्स इंडिया में लाते हैं एंड वो नए डॉलर्स से स्टॉक्स के लिए नया डिमांड क्रिएट होता है. एंड दैट्स व्हाई जब भी यूएस में मनी प्रिंटिंग होता है, जब भी ये रेड लाइन ऊपर जा रहा होता है, तब तक इंडिया का स्टॉक मार्केट बहुत बढ़िया करता है. सो लास्ट टाइम द फेड डिड QE आफ्टर 2008, इंडियन मार्केट्स रैलीड वेरी स्ट्रांगली. कोविड के बाद भी फेड डिड QE. वंस अगेन द इंडियन मार्केट्स डिड वेरी वेरी वेल. 2022 के बाद फेड ने QE बंद करके QT करना शुरू किया. QT इज द उल्टा ऑफ QE. QT स्टैंड्स फॉर क्वांटिटेटिव टाइटनिंग. तो जब बहुत ज्यादा मार्केट्स ओवरहीट हो जाते हैं तो फेड, instead of injecting liquidity, it starts to withdraw some of the liquidity that it has created in the previous years. This is what the Fed started to do after 2022. And everything else being equal, QT is usually not a good thing for stock market. But the good thing is QT ended in November of 2025. और हम 2025 के बाद आप देख सकते हैं ये जो QT वाला जो पिंक पोर्शन है ये बंद हो गया है. I will just zoom into this chart to show you what has been happening in the last 1 year. As you can see, in November 2025 तक QT चला, ये जो रेड लाइन है ये नीचे आ रहा था, और दिसंबर 2025 के बाद से ये रेड लाइन फिर से ऊपर जाने लगा है. So effectively, Fed has gone back to money printing. यूज एंड जैसा कि मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले आपको इससे पहले के चार्ट में दिखाया, हिस्टोरिकली जब भी ये रेड लाइन ऊपर जाता है, अल्टीमेटली इंडियन मार्केट्स डू वेरी वेल. अभी तक फेड ने मनी प्रिंटिंग शुरू किया है, उसके चलते इंडियन मार्केट्स का अपस्विंग अभी तक पूरी तरह से शुरू नहीं हुआ है. आई थिंक बिकॉज ऑफ अ नंबर ऑफ रीजंस, मोस्ट प्रोमिनेंटली बिकॉज ऑफ द वॉर इन मिडल ईस्ट स्टार्टिंग. बट हमें ये चीज बहुत क्लियरली याद रखना चाहिए कि बैकग्राउंड में क्या हो रहा है. ये वॉर सिचुएशन हमेशा नहीं रहेगा. सूनर रादर लेटर द वॉर सिचुएशन विल कम टू एन एंड, सूनर वन वे और द अदर दिस वॉर सिचुएशन विल बी रिजॉल्व. और जब वो वॉर सिचुएशन रिजॉल्व होगा, उसके बाद मार्केट्स का बिहेवियर विल बी गाइडेड बेस्ड ऑन Fed's liquidity posture, and we have to keep cognizant of the fact कि right now Fed is doing money printing, और Fed का which is positive liquidity. एंड मेरा स्ट्रांगली मानना है कि फेड का ये जो लिक्विडिटी पॉस्चर है, ये जो मनी प्रिंटिंग का पॉस्चर है, इसका क्वांटम और आगे जाके बढ़ता रहेगा once the war ends, and once this red line starts to go up at an aggressive pace, sooner rather than later मुझे लगता है the nifty will also start to respond. तो मेरा बेस के this is my guess, my best guess at this stage. This is what we have got so far. The नवंबर तक QT हुआ, दिसंबर के बाद से this red line has once again started to go up. मुझे लगता है कि अप्रैल के बाद से होपफुली इफ द वॉर सिचुएशन इज रिजॉल्व्ड, तो ये रेड लाइन और तेजी से ऊपर जाने लगेगा. एंड होपफुली बाय दैट टाइम इफ द वॉर इज रिजॉल्व्ड, then there is no way but for the nifty to go up very very strongly. And that's why I believe that right now we have all the conditions necessary for a melt up to play out. They are all in place. All we need is this war to finally conclude, and this conflict to be resolved one way or the other. One last thing, when I say कि यहाँ से एक melt up होने वाला है, मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं कि ये कोई मल्टी ईयर बुल रन होने वाला है. एज आई मेंशन्ड एट द बिगिनिंग ऑफ दिस प्रेजेंटेशन, मुझे स्ट्रांगली लग रहा है कि यूएस की जो इकोनॉमी है उसमें एक डिस्टिंक्ट एक स्लो डाउन आ रहा है. इस हफ्ते हमें सुनने को मिला कि न्यू जॉब क्रिएशन इन द मंथ, हर महीने यूएस में नॉन फार्म पेरोल, यूएस इकोनॉमी में कितने जॉब क्रिएट हुए उसका एक रिपोर्ट आता है. February में there were net job losses, 92,000 jobs were lost. So this is a classic sign कि अब new job creation has collapsed. Now we are going into net job loss territory, and this is a sign that the economy is now clearly heading into a recession. तो मेरा बेस केस है कि sometime in the second half of this year the US economy will finally slip into a recession. और जब US economy recession में जाती है, Fed will have to accelerate the money printing, but immediate reaction of the equity market is एक बार तो पहले हमें एक बड़ा 30-40% वाला crash देखने को मिलेगा. So in the second half, I will be very very cautious. In the first half, once the war is resolved, I'm very very optimistic about equity markets.
Sir, do you expect the same melt up also in the US markets, or because that's the job market says the jobs are not being added, right? Do you expect a melt up also in the US market? That might be hard, right? Hard to see a melt up there, right?
So again, so this is my view. My screen is visible.
Yeah. Yes, screen is visible.
Yeah. So this is what I was referring to, right? That we have in the month of February, हमें 92,000 net job losses देखने को मिले. Unemployment rate went up from 4.3% to 4.4%. This is the trend of monthly job creation numbers in the US. I don't know if the screen is if this
no, it's
chart
visible.
is.
Yeah. they're visible.
Over the last 3 years, the limited point I want to make is number of monthly new job creation. The trend is clearly towards the downside. Until last year also, we were creating anywhere between 1 lakh to 2 lakh new jobs every year. Now we are in a situation where since the second half of 2025, we have got multiple months where we have had net job losses, which means this line has gone negative. So this is clearly a sign. If the trend is very clear that the US economy is weakening, and ultimately the economy will head into a recession. Now, to your question, ki if we are heading into a recession, if the economy is getting worse, then how is it that the stock market can rally, right? Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Right. So see, मेरा इस बारे में view, again, this is a chart I have shown many times in the past. What is happening right now has happened before every recession. होता क्या है कि every time, so this is the 2008 recession. 2008 में जो recession आया, that recession was accompanied by a 60% crash in the Nifty. In US, we got a 50% crash in the S&P. COVID के समय we got a 38% crash here in Nifty, 35% crash in the S&P 500. तो रिसेशन आएगा तो क्रैश तो आएगा, उसमें कोई सेकंड थॉट्स नहीं है. बट what is interesting is what happens in the run up to the recession. In the run up to the recession, so in 2008, before the recession started, the Fed started cutting interest. So what happens is the economy is slowing, job losses are increasing. In order to support the economy, the Fed has to start cutting interest rates. So I believe that once this war situation, right now it's difficult for the Fed to cut rates because oil is going up and that is putting upward pressure on inflation. But once the war situation has been resolved, then there is no inflationary pressure because we are in a territory where there is net job losses. If people are losing jobs, there is no way that we can get inflation. तो होता ये है कि as soon as the economy starts to weaken, people start losing jobs. The Fed, as you see before 2008, this red line is the Fed funds rate. Interest rate, Fed started to cut interest rates. And as soon as Fed starts to cut interest rates, लोअर इंटरेस्ट रेट इज ऑलवेज बुलिश फॉर स्टॉक्स. तो जैसे ही फेड ने रेट कट शुरू किया, वी गॉट अ 38% रैली इन द निफ्टी. Something very similar happened before COVID also. Before COVID, the economy had already started to weaken. And that's why the Fed had started to cut rates from August of 2019 itself. We got COVID in January of 2020. For 5 months, the Fed was cutting rates. And as soon as Fed started to cut rates, we got a 13% rally in the Nifty. So my view is that once this war situation is resolved, we will get a situation where the Fed will be forced to do very aggressive rate cuts in the light of a weak labor market. And as the Fed starts to cut interest rates, and mind you, we are for the first time, even before a recession, the Fed is already gone back to money printing. So you are doing, so it's a double positive for stocks. Interest rates are coming down, and Fed is also providing liquidity by doing money printing in parallel. So the combination of these two, I believe, will almost certainly create very fertile grounds for a meltup to play out. It has to play out in the US first. We cannot get a meltup in India unless the US is also rallying. So to you answer your question, do we get a meltup in US? My view is, of course, we get as of now, my view is we will get one last meltup in US. If you don't get a meltup in US, it's very difficult for a meltup to play out in India.
So I had one question. So regarding the recession, right?
Who's this? Please introduce yourself.
Because already introduced,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So the recession, whatever we are expecting, it could be that because of that the interest rate, if it will come down, then automatically it should go up, right? But on the other hand, I was hearing also that okay, there is a private equity, some problem it's happening in the US, right? So what could be the reason for coming to the recession?
So See, recession is a cyclical event. At the initial, the last recession was COVID. After COVID, the Fed printed a lot of money, provided liquidity support to the economy that helped revive the demand cycle in US. And the for the last 6-7 years, we got the economy did very well, stock markets did very well. But as the stock market starts to do very well, uh, inflation starts to go up. And then, in order to control inflation, the Fed has to start increasing interest rates. And ultimately, as the Fed starts to increase, so you can see that in this chart, right? During in COVID, we got this 38% crash. In response to that, the Fed had to cut interest rates to zero, and Fed kept interest rates to zero all the way till 2022, January of 2022. After that, because of the interest rates being zero for almost 2 years, the stock market did very well. We got a big jump. Economy also was revived, and the economy started to do well, and inflation gradually started to go up. And as the economy started to do well and inflation started to go up, the Fed was forced to hike interest rates, and ultimately interest rates went up to a level of more than 5%, and it stayed at 5% till 2024. But ultimately, what happens is once you increase interest rates, at some point in time, interest rates reach a level where interest rates are no longer viable for businesses to carry out their functions. Interest rates are so high that some of the businesses start to go out of business. They either shut down or they have to start retrenching people, and unemployment gradually starts to go up. And that's exactly what is happening right now, that interest rates had gone up so much that uh, a lot of companies started to go bankrupt. Those who didn't go bankrupt had to retrench a lot of people. As a result, unemployment rate started to go up. And as unemployment rate starts, see, unemployment rate is ultimately what pushes the economy into a recession, because in a modern economy, if you lose your job, you will come back home and you will stop all your non-essential expenses. You will stop going to the mall, you will stop going to a restaurant. And in a modern economy, your spending is somebody else's income. If you stop going to the mall, if you stop going to restaurants, then at some point in time that restaurant will shut down. It will lay off people, and more people will be unemployed, and this loop starts to feed on itself. So that's the cycle which is playing out right now. So ultimately, unemployment is gradually going up, and it will ultimately push the economy into a recession. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, now got that.
Sure.
Hi, sir. This is Venkat from Bangalore. So I have a couple of questions I have listed. So we can go. So the quantitative easing and printing, are those same? Money
So
printing and quantitative easing.
तो होता क्या है कि when the Fed prints money, the way that money flows into the economy is the Fed uses that money to buy government bonds. So the government issues new bonds, and Fed buys those bonds using the newly printed money. So the money goes to the government, and then government spends that money. That's how this money goes into the economy. Historically, classical quantitative easing में क्या होता है कि it is the longer duration bonds. When the Fed buys bonds of 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, when they buy longer duration bonds, usko quantitative easing bolte हैं. Right now, what the Fed is doing is they are buying shorter duration bonds, 1 year, 2 year duration bonds. And that's why it doesn't fit into the classical definition of a QE. But as I say, it doesn't change so it's a technical difference. So technically, QE is buying of longer duration bonds with the newly created money. So in that classical definition, maybe what the Fed is doing right now may not fit into that definition, but uh, the effect is the same. Fed is buying government bonds, and that money the Fed is buying shorter duration bonds, and the money is going to the government, and the government is spending that money, and that money will ultimately go into the economy. So liquidity conditions will improve.
So printing meaning it's not physically start the printers and print the
So
currency
it doesn't.
and
So
goods.
it's not physical printing. It's just through.
So it's like a lending, right? It is lending from the Fed, and
Yeah.
so
It's
after some time it will pay back. It's not then.
So it's supposed to be paid back, but I mean historically it's all since the US government never pays back, so that's why the US government's debt has only kept on increasing. In 2008 the US government's debt was $7 trillion. Today it's $37 trillion. So it has gone up because Fed has only keeps on borrowing. It never pays back the old debt, and when the old debt becomes due for repayment, it just it borrows afresh to pay back the old loan.
Okay. So in India also printing happens. Meaning government gives the bonds, RBI buys
Much
the bonds.
happens, but much less. In an emerging, this is what is called the special privilege of the United States by virtue of being the reserve currency of the world. Any other country in the world, especially if an emerging market does this, then the market will lose value in that currency. So you would have heard of countries like Venezuela before it was
Yeah.
taken over by the US, or Zimbabwe experiencing 1,000,000% inflation. So this is what happens if you do money printing in an emerging market context. Because if an emerging market, you're then because if you're printing money indiscriminately, then you are basically debasing your currency. Uh, so if India were to do that, the value of INR will collapse.
But
In case of you,
what we have seen is the US is continuously printing. India was
correct,
never printing, and
yeah,
INR should appreciate, USD
correct,
should depreciate. But what
correct.
we are seeing is reverse.
So that's a slightly more it'll be a digression. In short, if I have to put it, as I said, this is the privilege of being the reserve currency of the world. The basic difference between USD and INR is that the demand for INR is only limited within India. आप इंडिया के बाहर INR का कोई डिमांड नहीं है. Whereas USD is a special currency जिसका demand is there even outside of United States. If two countries are, if let's say India को Saudi Arabia से crude oil खरीदना है, both these countries do not use USD as the currency in their domestic economy. But this cross-border settlement will only happen in USD. And as a result, an Indian company which is buying oil from Saudi Arabia will have to go and buy USD first from the international forex market, which creates demand for USD. And with those newly acquired dollars, they will pay the Saudis, because the Saudis will not accept payment in INR. So because of this special status, where
Once the Saudi receives the USD, they don't convert the USD to Saudi currency. They keep it in USD only.
so they will convert to the extent that they need for their domestic so uh, if the Saudi government's whatever for their domestic spending, whatever they need, they will convert. But whatever surplus is created, they usually
Okay.
will park it. They will invest in US government bonds.
That is advantage for the US
Yeah,
government.
yeah, yeah. So
Great.
this is why, because of this special status uh, uh, of the US dollar, where there is a humongous demand for US dollar beyond US borders. All international trade is basically denominated in USD. All international cross border lending is denominated in USD. This creates demand for USD, and that's why the US government gets away by printing so much money indiscriminately, and yet the value of the currency doesn't collapse. But at some point in time, the laws of economics will catch up, and they are catching up to a certain extent. If you see the recent trend of USD, the USD has been weakening quite sharply over the last 1 year.
Okay. And we are expecting 2026 second half recession, right? So how long do you expect that recession to last?
I don't know. I see.
Uh,
I don't predict my base case. Again, when I say, and even the second half of 2026 is my base case. My timelines are not sacrosanct. When the recession will happen, I think it's the mix of move index and junk bond spread will help us predict whether the economy has slipped into a recession or not. And the move index and junk bond spread will also, I think, play an important role in signaling to us when the recession is over. Uh, so instead of focusing on how long it will last, I think we should monitor these two indices, because these two shooting up means we are probably going into a recession. These two parameters starting to trend downwards basically will probably mean that we are now out of danger and the recession is probably over.
Thank you very much, sir. I have some more doubts that is regarding the funds and
let's take
yeah.
a few questions from others. उसके बाद maybe we can come back. और किसी को कोई सवाल है? Sorry, I've been speaking in English for a long time. हिंदी में किसी को सवाल है? I'll love to answer in Hindi.
Indraanil, this is Ishwar Chandra. I'm basically from Chennai. Just I have thanks for conducting this seminar during these hard times and giving us the confidence. My question is, in your earlier videos, you were extensively speaking about the 2-year bond versus 10-year bond, the deviation which is into negative territory. I don't know whether you have captured it or not. Can you please put some light on this particular topic, please?
Sure. So just for the benefit of others, मेरा do you follow Hindi? Will you be able to follow if I answer in Hindi?
Yes, sure, no problem.
Sure. तो इससे पहले मेरा एक वीडियो था जिसमें मैंने let me just go back to that. I can't find that slide. So I am मैंने एक 2024 में एक वीडियो पब्लिश किया था जिसमें मैंने तीन कंडीशंस बताए थे that these 3 conditions must be fulfilled before a recession can materialize. What were these conditions? पहला था Fed must start rate cuts. That condition has been fulfilled. Fed has already started its rate cut cycle in September of 2024. Second condition was yield curve mein there's something called yield curve inversion. So yield curve inversion happens when normally kya hota hai, shorter duration bond, a 2-year bond, bonds are of various duration. You have short duration bonds like 3-month bond, 1-year bond, 2-year bond, 10-year bond, 30-year bond. Usually the interest rate that you get by investing in a bond, the interest rate is usually higher longer the duration. So normally if agar 1-year bond mein invest karke, if you are getting an interest rate of 4%, in a 10-year bond you should get higher than 4%. So longer the duration of the bond, higher is the annual interest that it pays. Inversion में क्या होता है कि before every inversion, this relationship inverts. The 10-year bond interest rate goes below the interest rate of a 2-year bond or even a 3-month bond. That is called inversion. This inversion is usually followed by what is called uninversion, when the 10-year bonds interest rates once again goes above the interest rate of a 3-month bond. So historically what happens is before a recession, we get a inversion followed by a uninversion, and after the uninversion, after a few months, we usually get a recession. So my second condition was that the yield curve should have uninverted. So the uninversion has also now happened. The uninversion of the yield curve happened in November of 2025. This is a very important signal because normally क्या होता है कि inversion होता है, inversion के बाद uninversion anywhere between 6 months to 12 months में uninversion हो जाता है. This time round, the uninversion took more than 2 years. We got the uninversion in late 2022 and uninversion happened in 2025. So this was a historic, why this is an important signal is because we have had only 3 instances in history where inversion to uninversion timeline has been more than 500 days. And this was the 3rd time that this has happened. This is the 4th time this has happened. इससे पहले 3 बार हुआ है कि inversion to uninversion timeline, it has taken more than 500 days. Previously, इससे पहले this happened in 1929, 1973, 2008. All the 3 times was followed by a recession during which the stock market corrected by more than 50%. So we have got a repeat of that in 2025, where the fourth time we have got an inversion of the yield curve lasting more than 500 days. But this uninversion has now also happened. And the third condition that I had laid down was there is something called a reverse repo facility that should have gone down to zero. This third condition has also now been fulfilled. I think what the gentleman who asked this question wants to know is, now that these conditions required for a recession to materialize, they have now been fulfilled. Should we now, does that mean that a recession will start anytime now? So my answer is that I'll share. I can't find the link to that video in which I had discussed this. उस वीडियो में मैंने ये समझाया था कि once these three conditions are fulfilled, that creates the situation necessary for this one last melt up in the Nifty, which goes on for anywhere between 6 months to 12 months, and after that a US economy ultimately slips into a recession and a recession starts. So my base case continues to be the same, that all the three conditions which are necessary for a recession to play out have now been fulfilled. So in my view, a recession is imminent now. But that does not mean a recession is starting tomorrow. All the three conditions being fulfilled basically means that we now have the conditions necessary for this one last melt up in the Nifty to play out, which I think will play out in the first half of 2026. And then finally, in my base case, as I said, is that sometime in the second half of 2026, the US economy will slip into a recession. So that's how I'm looking at it. But my yield curve inversion signal continues to remain very, very important. If anything, I believe that the yield curve inversion is the length of the yield curve inversion this time round was so long that the signal that I'm getting from the yield curve inversion is that the recession that we are going to get, the next one that we are going to get, is going to be a very severe one. Is how I'm reading this.
How brutal it could be? How?
So let's see. I mean, it should. My base case is that last one was a very timid one. Nifty correction was only we got only a 38% correction. First time in history of capital markets, in the same calendar year, the Nifty had recovered the entire correction that we got in March of 2020. In the history of Nifty, that has never happened. Earlier in 2008, when we got a correction of 60% in 2008, the Nifty took almost 2.5 years. But it was for the full recovery to happen. Full recovery happened only by, I think, November of 2010. So it took 2.5 years for full recovery after the crash to happen. Whereas in COVID, we got a correction of 38% in March of 2020, and by I think October or November of the same year, the Nifty had made full recovery. So my view is that I'm not a technical chartist, so I can't hazard a guess in terms of how deep the correction is going to be. But my base case is that the next correction will be deeper than 38%, and the recovery will take much longer than what it took during COVID.
Thank you,
Can
It
can you
was very helpful for me. Thank you.
And again, I stress that let's keep a view on move index and junk bond spreads. They will play a very important role in helping us get out of markets before the recession kicks in and before this big correction starts. And they will once again play a very important role in helping us get back to the markets closer to the bottom. We will not. I'm not saying they will help us get out at the peak and get back at the bottom. But as long as we are able to get out 70 to 80% close to the peak and get back in 70 to 80% close to the bottom, I think we would have done a good job. And that's what we at Metacaps try to do.
Indraanil, just one small thing. You showed a very nice chart of junk bond spreads and the index you told. But then whenever the index hits 120, right, I see the damage is already done, isn't it? Even in your chart, when the junk bond spread is above, say, 5%, already in the previous recessions, the damage is done, meaning the market has already corrected. Is this indicator leading the market, or is market leading this indicator?
So I agree with you. Not always. The move index is more of what is called a coincident indicator. It's not a leading indicator. It goes up in real time, and move index shooting up may not always give you the chance to react. And that's why I say that you have to read the move index in tandem with junk bond spreads. Junk bond spreads go up slightly, a lot more gradually than the move index. So move index at times will not let you react. By the time the move index has shot up, the damage is already done. But it's not. But at least if the move index has gone up and it stays at least on that. So for example, let's say even if you I have it shoots up to 120. At least on that day, if you get out, there will be the. Let me put it this way: if the move index goes up, and we see in tandem with that the junk bond spread is also going up, that's a clear signal that you should get out. After that, if the move index, if what typically happens is that the move index starts to trend downwards. Move index never stays up for a very long time. But the junk bond spread can take, if things are not normalizing very quickly, then junk bond spread will continue to stay up for a longer duration. So if the move index goes up and the junk bond spread goes up, and then immediately after that both of them start to come down, that means that then you can get out, but you should get back in immediately. But if the move index goes up, move index will come down after that. But junk bond spread, if it goes up and continues to stay up for a longer duration, that means you should also stay out for a long till the junk bond spread also starts to trend downwards.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Otherwise, I'll do a quick summary of my AlphaSIP 2.0. Yeah.
सर am I audible?
Yeah.
सर मेरा दो क्वेश्चन है. एक तो ये AlphaSIP और AlphaSIP 2.0 में क्या डिफरेंस है?
ठीक है सर.
और दूसरा क्वेश्चन कि अगर हमको कुछ सर्टेन अमाउंट शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए कहीं पास करना है, जैसे AlphaSIP से उसको 5 साल का लॉक इन पीरियड आ जाता है, तो लेस देन मतलब 1 और 2 ईयर के पीरियड में भी कुछ पास करना है मनी और एफडी से ज्यादा रिटर्न मिले, तो ऐसा कुछ सजेशन है, कुछ आइडिया?
आपका नाम क्या है सर?
दिव्येश मस्तानी.
ओके सर. सेकंड AlphaSIP और AlphaSIP 2.0 में क्या फर्क है, ये मैं मेरे AlphaSIP वाले प्रेजेंटेशन में, मुझे 10 मिनट दीजिए, मैं जब AlphaSIP का प्रेजेंटेशन दूंगा उसमें मैं कवर करूंगा. शॉर्ट टर्म का टू बी ऑनेस्ट मेरे पास आई डोंट हैव अ वेरी क्लियर आंसर. AlphaSIP इज समथिंग, 2 साल तो बहुत शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन है, बट 3 साल तक का अगर आपका होराइजन है, देन AlphaSIP कैन कंटिन्यू टू बी अ गुड ऑप्शन. अनफॉर्चुनेटली AlphaSIP में 3 साल के बाद एग्जिट पॉसिबल नहीं है, बिकॉज हम ULIP यूज करते हैं. ULIP में 5 साल का लॉक इन होता है. 2 साल के लिए क्या ऑप्शन है, ऑनेस्टली मेरे पास आई डोंट हैव अ गुड आंसर टू दैट. मैं 2 साल के होराइजन वाले इन्वेस्ट एट दिस स्टेज, इफ यू आस्क मी, आई विल प्रोबब्ली कीप माय मनी इन गोल्ड.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
With a 2-year horizon, I'm quite confident that 2 year down the line, gold will be much higher than where we are today. AlphaSIP wala question, just bear with me. I'll answer that question when I'm doing the presentation on AlphaSIP.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Abhijit. I'm already an investor in your AlphaSIP 1.
Thank you.
Invested in last year March in the name of my 2 sons. So 2.5 I've already initiated. So my question is different. My question is what impact this war will have on the recession that is expected in the US market, and if once the US market goes into a recession, will it spill over to the emerging markets also?
Okay, so I don't think that this war in itself will push the US economy into a recession. My base case is that this war will most probably resolve itself. I can be completely wrong. I'm just making an informed guess based on what I'm reading from the move index and junk bond spread. Since move index and junk bond spreads are still at a relatively low level, based on this, I believe that the bond market is telling us that this conflict will resolve itself most probably within March itself, unless the bond market signals change. My view is that we will get a resolution of this within this month itself, and by early April, I think we should start to see some kind of a rebound in equity markets kicking in. So I don't think that this war in itself will be able to push the US economy into a recession. In fact, the other reason why oil-related war no longer impacts the US is we are now looking at a very fundamentally different energy scenario in the US. Up until 10 years back, US was a net importer of energy. The amount of oil it consumed was more than the amount of oil uh, it produced. So as a result, it was a net importer of oil. But in the last 10 years, we have had this boom in what is called shale oil in the US, because of which US has now become a net exporter of oil. So when you are a net exporter of oil, you have a perverse interest to keep oil prices high, because high oil prices are revenue for you. So to that extent, if the war actually continues for longer, and as a result, oil prices continues to remain elevated, it is very negative for oil importing countries like India, Japan, Korea, and these are the countries whose stock market has taken the most beating. But it's actually very positive for US because as I said, it's a net oil exporter. So the war in itself, as I said, is not a negative factor for the US. Having said that, I believe that ultimately this war will be resolved within the next couple of weeks. My base case is before the end of March. Your second question was, can ultimately, once the US goes into a recession, will it affect emerging market? 100%. I think the history is very clear. We have always got a recession whenever we have got a recession in the US, that has led to a big stock market crash in the US, and a big stock market crash in the US has almost always been replicated in across emerging markets, including India. If anything, the quantum of the correction is always higher in emerging markets than in US. In 2008, US corrected by 50%, India corrected by 60%. During COVID, US corrected by 30%, S&P corrected by, NASDAQ corrected by 30%, S&P corrected by 35%, India corrected by almost 40%. So if anything, the quantum of correction in India is always higher than the quantum of correction in the US. So that relationship, I think, is undeniable. If we get a recession in the US, we will get a downturn in India.
Thank you, sir. So another question is, if in this kind of a scenario, regarding this, some of the US private placement, private equity firms, I think BlackRock, they are restricting withdrawals of funds as per some news during the week. So what does that indicate?
So it indicates, see, private equity by definition, they hold securities which are not very liquid. They cannot, more often than not, they are companies which are not publicly listed. So they are private companies whose shares are not publicly traded. So it's not very easy to, if you get redemption pressure, it's not very easy for the private equity company to honor that redemption request if they are not able to sell that company. If that company share is not publicly traded, then it's very difficult to find buyers, especially during times like these when the stock market is falling and there is a lot of panic on the street. In my view, that's not extraordinary. It happens every time there is a sort of panic in the street. Private equity companies have to restrict redemptions. That in itself, in my view, is not a sign that we have to panic. I mean, private equity is not a gauge through which we should decide whether we are at the cusp of a recession or not, because inherently they hold shares of companies which are very illiquid, which are not easy to liquidate. So they taking measures to limit redemptions, I will not read too much into it.
So one other question, sir, regarding the gold that you have just told, that if it is a 2-year timeline horizon, that it's better to put the money in gold. Like, why do you see that gold would give a better return in next 2 years? Like, what are the factors that you take into account?
So the way I look at gold is, somebody asked me about US government debt, right? If the US government, if the Fed is printing money and buying US government bonds, then essentially the Fed is lending money to the US government, right? But historically, what happens is that the US government has never repaid back the loan that it has taken from the Fed. When the Fed is doing money printing, what it's essentially doing is it's creating new dollars, and with these new dollars, it is buying US government bonds. So when you are buying US government bonds, Fed is essentially lending money to the US government. At some point in time, if the Fed is buying a 10-year bond, then at the end of 10 years, the US government is supposed to return whatever amount it has borrowed to the Fed. In reality, what happens is that the US government never returns the money. When the repayment is due, it simply borrows fresh money in order to repay older loan. And that's why the US government's debt has continuously increased over the last 20 years. As I said, during the 2008, US government's federal debt was about $7.5 trillion. Today it is $37 trillion. So it has been increasing at a rate of about 8% per year. If you plot 7 trillion going up to 37 trillion in about 17-18 years, that comes to a CAGR of about 8% per annum. Now, the debt of the US government going up in itself is not a problem, as long as US government is borrowing money through a market-based mechanism. By a market-based mechanism means if they are issuing new bonds and that bond is sold to investors like you and me. So we put our money and buy a US government bond. When I buy a US government bond, I am essentially lending money to the US government. When that is a market-based transaction. But what has been happening largely for the last 20 years is that US government is not borrowing money through a market-based mechanism. Most of the money it borrows, it simply goes to the Fed, and Fed creates new money, and with that newly created money, it lends that money to the US government. So new money is created out of thin air, and with that newly created money, the Fed lends that newly created money to the US government. And when you create money out of thin air like that, you are essentially debasing your currency, right? So there is more money in the economy chasing the same amount of goods and services. So the value of if anybody else were to do that other than Fed, it will be called counterfeiting. It will be a criminal offense. But Fed gets away by doing that because it's a piece of financial engineering, right? Now, when you do that, when you print money out of thin air, you can print money out of thin air, but you cannot print gold. Gold is in limited supply. So just imagine over a period of time, the amount of money that the US government's debt is increasing by 8% every year. So the Fed is having to increase money, is having to create new money at a rate of 8% every year in order to support the US government's borrowing program. So you are effectively debasing US dollars at a rate of 8% every year. And if you look at how gold has behaved over the last 20 years, especially since 2008, gold's return in US dollar terms has been exactly 8% per year. Gold has gone up at a rate of about 8% per year, which is the same rate at which US government's federal debt has gone up. So US government keeps on borrowing. The amount of debt that the US government has keeps on going up at a rate of 8%. And it turns out that gold is also going up at the same rate. Why is this relationship so tight? It is so tight because to fund the debt, Fed has to create money out of thin air, new money out of thin air. And this new money creation is happening at a rate of 8% per annum. That means US dollar is getting debased at a rate of 8% per annum. And when you debase your currency, something that cannot be, so gold is in limited supply. Gold is finite supply. The price of gold will have to, in US dollar terms, will have to go up by 8% per annum to account for the fact that US dollar is now debased by 8%. 8% in US dollar means about you should add 4% more if you have to convert it in INR terms. So gold, that's why, has gone up at a rate of about 8% every year in USD terms and has gone up by about 12% per year over the last 20 years in INR terms. Going forward, I am very confident that US government will continue to borrow. Its federal debt will continue to go up at least 8%, at which has been the historical rate. I think this rate of, if anything, this 8% can go to 9 to 10%. So I am very confident if gold continues to, if federal debt of the US continues to grow at 8%, that assures a gold's appreciation of 8% per annum, which means by 2030, in next 4 years, today we are at 5,000, we will easily be at anywhere between 7,500 to 8,000 for the gold, at least if we get 8% appreciation by 2030. My sense is that by 2030, the appreciation in gold will be higher than the appreciation in US government debt. So my base case is gold should be close to $9,000 to $10,000 by 2030. So gold will give you about, it's a long answer. I don't know if it addressed your question.
Thank you, sir.
Very nice answer, very nice analysis, Indraanil. Just a small thing, is it safe to play with miners if we are this bullish on gold?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, miners opportunities are very limited. In my personal portfolio, I have only 1/3 of my gold. I have about 20% allocation to precious metals, of which 1/3 is gold, 2/3 is miners. In India, so for the benefit of others, when you say miners matlab hota hai ki stocks of gold mining companies. तो इंडिया में तो गोल्ड माइनिंग कंपनीज लिस्टेड कंपनी कोई भी नहीं है. There are quite a few gold mining companies in the US, and the only way to participate in that is एक DSP का एक fund है, DSP World Gold Fund. Unfortunately, subscription to that fund has been closed quite a few years back, and I don't know if they're going to open it anytime soon. That's the only way you can invest in mining in the stocks of companies which are involved in mining of gold. So historically, the way this works is when gold goes up 10%, gold mining companies will go up usually 20%. More than that. It's whatever gold goes up, mining companies go up by more than that, and the other way around. Gold ka correction hoga to the mining companies ka stocks will correct by more than the decline in gold. So whatever is if you're very bullish on gold, then you're right. Miners are a very good way of playing it because it's a leverage way of playing the price of gold. They will usually go up significantly more than the rate of price of gold. Unfortunately, we don't have too many opportunities, ways of participating in mining stocks.
So what's your view on silver?
Yeah, same thing.
See, technically, I don't own silver, but this is not I'm not arguing for or against silver. Silver is a higher beta version of, is a higher volatility version of gold. So long term, if gold has to do well, silver will do even better, but the volatility will be much higher. Once we get into a recession, in the immediate aftermath of a recession, typically what happens is liquidity dries down. So during such times, people have to, the only few things which are liquid during those times is gold. So recession जब शुरू होता है, तो you will actually see that counterintuitive as it is, gold also starts to correct for some time before it stabilizes. So during such times when gold has a drawdown, silver will have a much bigger drawdown. And the higher volatility is also because silver is not just a precious metal; it also has many industrial applications. So it really depends on if you are able to absorb that kind. If you're comfortable with that kind of a volatility, then by all means have bet on silvers as well. But as I said, I personally like gold, and my precious metals portfolio is a mix of gold and gold miners. I don't have a very large exposure to silver. But long term, if you're comfortable with the higher volatility, I think you should. Then silver is a good bet, but do it only if you have 4 to 5 years runway, because silver will have a. I strongly believe that once we get into the next recession, precious metals initially at least will correct a bit, and when that correction happens, silver will have a much larger correction. We saw that in January also, right? When there was the unwind in precious metals, gold had a correction, but silver had a much larger correction. So that trend will hold up. But long term, I think both of them should do well together.
Thank you,
Just
sir.
a follow-up question, Indraanil. So in India, at least we have some copper miners, right? Are you bullish on copper or you only play with gold?
So in general, so I don't directly take stock specific bets because I don't follow stocks. But there are a couple of commodity related mutual funds. Again, not a recommendation. Most of my money is uh, decide what your what is the level of that you're comfortable with. Is the answer that I gave for gold applies to every commodity. You can print US dollars, you can print INR. You cannot print copper, you cannot print gold, you cannot print silver, you cannot print the whole bunch of other industrial commodities which exist out there. So these are in limited supply. So if you debate going forward, if we are confident that the US government will continue to print money to fund its borrowing and debase its currency, then this entire commodity complex, which cannot be printed, will definitely go up in US dollar terms. Having said that, the all these commodities have a industrial application, and when there is a recession, the industrial demand takes a hit and there will be a drawdown in that. So all these commodities with industrial application will have significantly higher volatility than gold, but long term I am bullish on all of them. From a 2030 perspective, decide if you don't have any allocation, consider having 5% allocation to commodities. If you already have 5, maybe have 10. Anywhere between, I think at this stage, uh, anywhere between 15, 20% allocation to commodities with a 5-year view is highly desirable. So if you have the knowledge to participate by punting in individual stocks, good for you. I don't, as I said, I participate through the mutual fund route. I like the ICICI Commodities Fund. There's a DSP Commodities Fund also, which is good. So choose your vehicle, but I think I'm very bullish on the entire commodity complex. But as I said, silver will be more volatile than gold. Commodities will be even more volatile than silver, right? You decide how far away from you want to go on the risk scale, but long term, all of them, the entire commodity complex should do well.
Yes, sir. This is Venkat. I have some doubt on the fund. So now I should ask, or after you cover that topic, I should ask.
Fund of
Yeah. So
go ahead. I'll let you know if I
sure.
yeah.
So, for example, in India, we have mutual fund houses like ICICI, HDFC, right? So they offer mutual funds. Similarly, these insurance companies, ULIPs, they also have they also offer mutual funds. These are same, maybe they are investing the mutual fund houses, or it's a different set of funds.
So you're asking about what is the difference between the kind of funds offered by mutual fund companies and ULIP companies? Is that the question?
Yeah, are the same funds or the completely
Very
different?
similar, very similar. So only difference is that when you invest in, a ULIP company will also have a large cap fund, mid cap fund, small cap fund, flexi cap fund. On the debt side, it will have a liquid fund, it will have a bond fund. Very similar. The only limitation is that in mutual funds you can create a basket of funds across fund houses. In a ULIP company, when you invest in the ULIP of a particular company, that entire amount can only be invested within the universe of that. So we sell Bajaj Allianz ULIPs, so and HDFC ULIPs. So if
is
you
it
choose,
possible without investing in ULIP, if I want to invest in that mutual fund, is it possible? No, right?
is it possible for what?
No. So if I invest in ULIP, the fund manager
The,
is taking that money, or the person who is managing that is
uh,
investing in the mutual fund within the ULIP, right?
uh,
So ULIP related. So is there now anybody if want to invest in a mutual fund within this ULIP? So without investing in the ULIP, can he invest in the mutual fund? That is not
no,
possible,
you
right?
can invest in the I'll cover that in my AlphaSIP presentation. In AlphaSIP, what we do is that the additional service that I'm giving you is that I keep switching the money between equity and debt, between equity funds and debt funds. In my view, if liquidity condition, if there is a crash which is about to start, then I will move the money out from equities, switch into debt. After a crash has played out, I'll switch back from debt to equity. Now, this switching that I'm doing between a equity fund and a debt fund, this is a lot more tax efficient when you are doing it
Yeah.
using ULIP,
Right.
right? In a mutual, you can do it using mutual funds also, but when you in a mutual fund, every time you switch, there is a capital gains tax that you
Correct,
have to
correct.
pay,
Correct.
right?
But the liquidity will be high. For example, the moment you decide, okay, this is not the time to stay in the equity, this is the time
Uh,
to stay in the debt. If you sell it,
uh,
right, the fund house size is very small compared to the mutual funds. These are ULIP funds, right?
uh,
ULIP funds are basically very, very small than the regular HDFC or ICICI,
hmm,
mutual funds.
hmm,
These are not
hmm.
mutual funds. These are
Yeah,
ULIP mutual funds inside the ULIP. So this is
yeah.
not general public access.
Hmm,
Only the
hmm.
people who are investing in the ULIPs they have access. So the moment you put the sell order, right?
Uh,
How this will work? They
hmm,
internally invest in ETFs. ETFs again are illiquid.
hmm. See, my point is so honestly I don't, if you, I'll explain that when in my AlphaSIP presentation. We actually do not, so in Bajaj Allianz ULIP that we sell, we do not use the large cap, mid cap, small cap funds offered by Bajaj Allianz. We use something called, there's a category of funds which are called momentum funds. These are actually so these we actually force them to introduce these funds. These are, so there is, the Nifty has a couple of momentum indices such as Nifty 500 momentum 50 index. There is another index called Nifty Alpha 50 index. So these are Nifty indices, and so Bajaj has funds which replicate these indices. So if you ask me, in AlphaSIP 2.0, what we do is we don't use any of Bajaj's funds. We use the funds of Bajaj which replicate these indices. So and when you are using an index fund, in index fund there is usually there's never a problem of liquidity. You can always get in and get out.
So how they replicate? So do they, do the purchase of the stocks or they invest in ETFs? Because some, ETF funds, some index-based mutual funds, I have
So
seen that they
so
don't replicate.
I
They
don't know the
invest.
exact I don't know the exact mechanism. All these all these so ULIP companies are allowed to invest in a ETF offered by a mutual fund company. So some ULIP companies, to run an index fund, they will simply pick a ETF offered by a mutual fund company and invest there. So the replication work is done by the ETF provider. Some companies manually replicate the index. So it's a mix that you have there.
Sir, these momentum funds, they
Sir,
work best when the market is moving up.
Can I request something? That questions related to funds, momentum funds, let me cover when I'm covering AlphaSIP, because otherwise somehow it could be a little out of context.
Yeah, sir, I have a question regarding your total presentation. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. My name is Siddharth. I'm from Mumbai. First question is regarding the commodities and the gold. What you told about? Have you considered the USD INR rate? Because gold has been volatile in USD terms, but since INR has depreciated so much in straight line that we have not got the volatility of the gold. One is that. So tomorrow, let's say INR becomes 75 rupees because of USD, because you're already correcting in other currency terms, Euro and Japan. So that will, have you considered that one? And second, my question is, sir, let's say I want to invest 12.5 lakhs in your strategy. So in that, I want to invest 2.5 lakhs for the tax-free gains under the ULIP. The remaining 10 lakhs, of course, then it will have the general long-term capital gains. So how to structure that with your strategy? Thank you.
So AlphaSIP question I'll answer later. Please ask me when I'm doing the AlphaSIP presentation. The gold question, see, as of now, I think the long-term trend over the last 15-20 years has been that INR has depreciated by about 3.5-4% against the US dollar. So that's been the long-term trend, and that's why I said that you can see that in price of gold also. Gold in USD over the last 20 years has gone up by about 8% per year in USD. And if you have to consider the appreciation of gold in INR, then you have to just add the 4% depreciation that INR has had. So you add 4% to 8, you get 12%. In INR terms, gold has, since 2008, has gone up by about, long-term trend has been about 12% per annum. Year on year, there could be changes, but long-term trend is USD gold appreciation 8%, INR appreciation about 12%. What you are asking, can this change? What happens when when US dollar starts to weaken dramatically? Possible, but I would say let's get there. I don't think as of now there is any sign that. See, USD so far, whatever weakness it has shown has been against the peer currencies like Euro and Japanese yen. There is no weakness that the USD is showing against emerging market currencies like India, right? Against India, if anything, the INR continues to depreciate. So that long-term trend of INR depreciating by 3.5-4% annually, I don't think that as of now there are any signs that this trend is going to break anytime soon. So let's see how it goes. If that trend changes, maybe I'll change my views. But as of now, I don't think there is any sign of that.
Sir, if the trend changes, then will your thesis about MOVE index shift? Because then Indian bond markets will affect more than the US bond markets, right? Will that also change?
It will, but as I said, let's get there first. I don't think that as of now there is. I mean, you are talking about a situation where MOVE index, which MOVE index tracks the volatility of US government bond market. US government bond market is the US government bonds are world's largest asset class. They're many times larger than the equity markets. For Indian markets to get decoupled completely from the world's largest asset class, I think we are some distance away from that. I don't think that's happening in a hurry. Maybe someday it will happen. We as a country, we are growing the size and I mean, in overall scheme of things, India as of now, I'm talking about equity market, India is 4% of global market cap. Bond market terms, we don't even figure anywhere. So for us to become so material that changes in US MOVE index does not impact our markets, I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
So one question regarding the Japanese bond market. Japanese bond yields have started going up. Will it lead to some unwinding of US bonds which Bank of Japan is holding because they are having the largest share?
So ultimately, I think that's the popular view. That's the easiest way. A lot of carry trade enthusiasts sell fear on YouTube that bond yields will go up and ultimately the yen carry trade will unwind and people will repatriate money back from US to Japan, and that will lead to a very tight liquidity conditions in global financial system. My limited point is, if it is happening, I mean, this whole thesis has been repeated so many times since 2024. Every time there is a 10% crash, we jump to the conclusion that this is because of the unwind of the yen carry trade. Now, let's just think this through logically. What is being suggested here? For this to actually play out, people have borrowed in Japan at a low interest rate, and with that, they have invested in US and other emerging markets where the return is higher. And if Japanese yields are supposed to go up, then these investors will be forced to sell and bring this money back to Japan. That's the risk being highlighted here, right? Now, for this to play out, somebody who has invested with borrowed Japanese money in, let's say, US stocks will have to sell his US stocks, convert that money from US dollar to Japanese yen, and then bring it back to Japan. Now, for this to play out, आपको US dollar आप बेच रहे हो, Japanese yen आप खरीद रहे हो. If this trade happens at a very large scale, तो Japanese yen का exchange rate will go up, right? Against USD. But is that happening? Go and look. For me, the proof of the pudding here is the USD Japanese yen exchange rate. As long as Japanese, it's going the other way around. It's the Japanese yen which is weakening. USD Japanese yen exchange rate में USD is the one which continues to be the stronger currency and continues to strengthen. ये तो उल्टा चल रहा है अभी भी. As long as Japanese yen is weakening, that cannot happen if a lot of investors are repatriating money back into Japan, right? तो मेरा कहना है कि हो सकता है, what you are suggesting, this whole unwind of carry trade could happen at some stage, but is it happening or not? उसका सबसे clearest signal आपको मिलेगा अगर Japanese yen starts to appreciate. And as of now, I don't see any sign that Japanese yen is appreciating, and I don't see how the Japanese central bank will sit aside and do nothing if the Japanese yen starts to become very, very strong, because Japan is a completely export driven economy. They just concluded a trade deal with the United States where they got a very preferential treatment of 15% tariff on Japanese car imports uh, into the United States. Do you and for that they have had to pledge some 200 or 250 billion dollars worth of investments that the Japanese government and Japanese private sector will have to do in the US. This they did in order to get a preferential 15% tariff, preferential access to the US market for their car. This is how much they value their US market's export potential. Do you think that they will just sit aside if their currency goes up by 5 to 10%, which will make their exports non adversely competitive by to that extent? So it's again, to my mind, I mean, that narrative is compelling. Is it playing out? Answer is no.
Thank you, sir.
ठीक है. Can I move on to my AlphaSIP presentation? That because there were quite a few questions regarding that, so that will help. We have one more hour to go.
Sir, are we in a commodity super cycle right now?
We are. I think I answered that question. I strong there. See, there will be hiccups. It's not going to be a straight line. As I said, my base case is that we will my base case is that we'll get a recession in the US in the second half of 2026. If I am right, and if that recession actually happens, then during a recession, there is industrial demand takes a hit, and because of which there is demand destruction for commodities. So during such times of recessions, commodities will take a hit. So that's why I say it won't be a straight line. During times of recession, there will be hits that the commodity complex will take. Even gold will probably take some hits during such time. But long term, as I said, from a 2030 standpoint, um, I believe it will do as well as equities, at least, if not better.
Including steel also.
So individual, see, I'm not a sectoral expert. And that's why I don't invest individually in stocks. If you have that intelligence, by all means, do that. As I said, my chosen vehicle is a mutual fund where I give it to the fund manager, and then he decides that where he sees value. Does he see more value in copper than steel or aluminum or zinc? That decision I leave it for the fund manager to take. But at a 30,000 feet level, I'm bullish on commodities. I think everybody should have at least a 10-15% exposure to the commodity complex.
And last question is, what is your outlook for green steel, or not focusing on that? You are
Sorry.
green steel.
Outlook on
Green steel.
what is that green steel?
Green steel production, which emits less carbon dioxide.
Sorry, completely above my pay grade. I don't want to pretend to be an expert about something I'm not. See, I'm honestly,
Yes.
I got a lot of these questions in my last week's session also. See, my specialty is to track liquidity. When liquidity conditions are good, I will tell you this is the time to go. This is a good time to be invested in equities. So within equities, which stocks to invest in, I leave it up to the fund manager of the ULIP company, because I am not a stock picker, right? And in the same way, I have a view on various asset classes at a 30,000 feet level, but within those asset classes, I'm not a very great expert. I can tell you what's a good time to be in equities. I'm not a good person to tell you which equities should you invest. Similar way, I can tell you what's a good time to be in commodities, but I'm not the best person to tell you which commodities to pick.
Okay, thank you.
Hi Indranil, this is Rajendra from Mumbai. So my question here is, most of the analysts and hedge fund managers are expecting the US dollar to not remain as a reserve currency going forward. So in this situation, what gives you the confidence of making 12% return in the next 10 years, SIP or something like that?
I said next 12% from gold. I'm saying so gold is is getting debased at a rate of at least 8%. That's been
No,
the long.
no, Indranil, I think what I'm asking is with relation to the fund that we would be investing in through you.
So the ULIP companies.
Yes. So in that case, what gives you the confidence? Because now, if there is a major reset, that may set in from the US losing its power and China gaining its power. So if these things happen in the next 10 years, how come we be sure that the 12% return that is possible from this kind of a scenario?
Okay, so if this actually plays out, let's see what has happened in history. The dollar's strength is tracked through something called the Dixie index, DXY index, right? When it goes up, it's when it strengthens, it goes to 100 plus 120 odd levels, and then we have seen lower levels as well. So the first decade of this century, the 2000 to 2008, that period was the first decade was one of dollar weakness. That was the decade where we got the emergence of emerging markets, especially this BRICS pack, as it is called. So BRICS as an acronym was created by this Indian economist called Geeta Gopinath. She was with the IMF at that time. So all these emerging markets started to come into global prominence in this first decade of the century, especially between 2002, 2003, all the way till 2008. The second decade, 2010 to 2020, was unmistakably the decade of strong USD. Right? Now, since the dollar peaked in about 2022, 2023, since then, the dollar index has steadily been coming down. So, first decade was a decade of dollar weakness, second decade was a decade of dollar strength. Now we are possibly heading into a decade of dollar weakness. How did Indian equities behave in the first 2 decades? The Indian equities in the emerging market pack in general and Indian equities in particular had the best decade of their lifetimes in the first decade of the century when USD was weakening. Between 2003 to 2008, we had the Nifty returning 35% per annum. Nifty, I'm not talking of the index delivering 35% CAGR. Imagine what some of the mid caps and small caps would have delivered. And the second half of the decade, 2010 to, in fact, 2008 to 2020. 2008 is when we got the 2008 recession, 2020 is when we got the COVID recession. During this period, USD return of Nifty, guess was how much? 0. The Nifty doubled during this time, but the currency halved. So the net USD return of Nifty in the second decade of the century was 0. So that the limited point I'm trying to make here is that relationship is unmistakably strong. During periods of dollar weakness, emerging markets do very well. India within the emerging market pack is actually the standout performer usually during such times. During times of dollar strengthening, US assets do well. So if going forward, if you buy that view that USD is going to weaken, I think there is a undisputed case that emerging markets should do well, and India, if emerging markets if they do well, India is probably poised to do even better.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. We are at 6 o'clock. I think let me start with my AlphaSIP presentation, and then if there are any residual questions after that, I'll take them together. Okay. Everyone is able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So, see, I'll quickly, before I get into what is AlphaSIP 2.0 and how it differs from the earlier version of AlphaSIP that we were offering, I want to, for the benefit of everyone, मैं एक बार फिर से AlphaSIP से हम क्या प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, उस प्रॉब्लम को एक बार मैं एक्सप्लेन करना चाहता हूँ. तो वो प्रॉब्लम एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए मुझे आपको ये चार्ट दिखाना पड़ेगा. ये चार्ट बेसिकली हमें दिखा रहा है कि निफ्टी में 5 इयर्स तक आप एसआईपी करते हैं तो हिस्टोरिकल परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ अ 5 ईयर एसआईपी इन द निफ्टी कैसा रहा है. तो बेसिकली इस चार्ट में हमें the technical term for that is rolling return of a 5-year SIP in the Nifty. So ये टेक्निकल जार्गन है, ये आपको अगर नहीं पता रोलिंग रिटर्न क्या होता है, कोई बात नहीं, मैं इसको आसान भाषा में समझाता हूँ. इसमें मैंने क्या दिखाने की कोशिश की है कि जनवरी 2000, इस चार्ट में बेसिकली हम देख सकते हैं कि जनवरी 2010 के बाद से अभी तक 1 2 3 ऑल द वे अप टू अभी तक 133 मंथ्स ऑलरेडी निकल चुके हैं। एंड अगर आप इन 133 मंथ्स में से किसी भी महीने में अगले 5 साल तक निफ्टी में एसआईपी करते तो उस एसआईपी से आपको क्या रिटर्न मिलता वो मैंने इस चार्ट में डिपिक्ट करने की कोशिश की है। फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर आप जनवरी 2010 से जनवरी 2015 तक एसआईपी करते तो आपको, ऑल दिस इज निफ्टी बाय द वे, ओके, तो जनवरी 2010 से जनवरी 2015 के बीच अगर आपने निफ्टी में एसआईपी किया होता तो आपको रिटर्न मिला होता 14.5% पर एनम। ऑल दिस इज एनुअलाइज्ड रिटर्न। फरवरी 2010 से फरवरी 2015 के बीच में अगर आपने निफ्टी में एसआईपी किया होता तो 16.64% पर एनम। बिटवीन मार्च 2010 एंड मार्च 2015 17.05% per annum। तो ऐसे करके ऑल द वे, इफ यू कीप मूविंग 1 month at a time, you will come to the most recent month for which you have data available। मैंने ये चार्ट जनवरी में बनाया था। तो जनवरी में the most recent 5-year period जिसका हमारे पास डेटा है वो है जनवरी 21 टू जनवरी 26। इस दौरान अपने निफ्टी में एसआईपी किया होता आपको 12.04% पर एनम रिटर्न मिला होता। तो आपने ये हर महीने 133 मंथ्स का अगले 5 इयर्स का एसआईपी रिटर्न निकाल लिया है। अभी आप पूछेंगे इतना बड़ा एक्सरसाइज करने का क्या जरूरत है? ये एक्सरसाइज करने का जरूरत ये है कि अगर आप ये एक्सरसाइज करेंगे तब आपको पता चलेगा कि हिस्टोरिकली निफ्टी में एसआईपी करने से बेस्ट केस रिटर्न अभी तक का क्या है, वर्स्ट केस रिटर्न क्या है और मीडियन केस रिटर्न क्या है। तो अब तक का बेस्ट केस रिटर्न है अक्टूबर 19 टू अक्टूबर 24। ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम अगर आपने निफ्टी में एसआईपी किया होता तो आपको रिटर्न मिला होता 20.35%। एंड वर्स्ट केस रिटर्न ऑफ अ 5-year SIP इन द निफ्टी सो फार हैज बीन नेगेटिव 5.82% पर एनम। आपको ये रिटर्न मिला होता अगर आपने निफ्टी में एसआईपी किया होता बिटवीन अप्रैल 2015 एंड अप्रैल 2020। मीडियन केस इज 12.51, राइट? नाउ ये चार्ट से निफ्टी में एसआईपी करने का जो एक रिस्क मैं हाईलाइट करना चाहता हूं वो ये कि आपने 5 साल तक एसआईपी किया, एट द एंड ऑफ 5 इयर्स आपको क्या रिटर्न मिलेगा, दैट एंटायरली डिपेंड्स एज पर दिस चार्ट ऑन व्हाट वाज मार्केट कंडीशंस लाइक ड्यूरिंग दैट 5 ईयर। ड्यूरिंग दैट 5 ईयर अगर मार्केट कंडीशंस अच्छे थे देन यू कैन गेट 20% प्लस रिटर्न। October 19 to October 2024, ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम मार्केट कंडीशंस वर वेरी फेवरेबल। अक्टूबर 19 के बाद कोविड के समय एक क्रैश आया, बट उसके बाद अगले 4 साल में मार्केट में एक वेरी स्ट्रांग रिकवरी आया। सो फॉर द बेटर पार्ट ऑफ दिस 5 इयर्स वी गॉट वेरी स्ट्रांग रैलीज। तो आपको यू एंडेड अप विद 20% रिटर्न। अप्रैल 15 से अप्रैल 20 तक के बीच में एसआईपी रिटर्न्स वर नेगेटिव। व्हाई? बिकॉज दिस 5-year period came to an end in April 2020 और अप्रैल 2020 में कोविड आ गया। कोविड के चलते एक 40% का मार्केट क्रैश हो गया और इस मार्केट क्रैश के चलते आपका 5-year एसआईपी रिटर्न नेगेटिव 6% हो गया, राइट? नाउ इमेजिन आपके पास आपका कोई फाइनेंशियल गोल है। वी आर राइट नाउ इन मार्च ऑफ 2026। अगले 5 साल में आपको आपका एक फाइनेंशियल गोल है। आपके घर में let's say your son or daughter is in class 7. Your son or daughter will finish class 12 in 5 years from now and will go to college. वो आज से 5 साल बाद कॉलेज जाएगा। आपका एक फाइनेंशियल गोल है कि उसके कॉलेज एजुकेशन के लिए मुझे एक फंड क्रिएट करना है with which I want to pay for the college fees of my son or daughter. Let's say I want to save 20 lakh rupees in 5 years for my son or daughter's education, right? So you will go to a financial advisor. He will tell you ki he will assume that you will get a return of 11-12% over the next 5 years, and based on that he will tell you how much SIP you have to do every month in order to get to 20 lakh rupees in 5 years, and accordingly आप SIP करना शुरू कर देंगे। लेकिन इस SIP के पीछे आपका assumption है कि during the next 5 years आपको 10-11-12% का रिटर्न मिलेगा। Only then you will be able to build a corpus of 20 lakhs. However, what we can see in this chart is that there is no guarantee कि 12% का रिटर्न अगले 5 साल में मिलेगा। अगले 5 साल में रिटर्न क्या मिलेगा वो entirely डिपेंड करेगा कि मार्केट कंडीशंस अगले 5 साल में कैसे रहते हैं। अगले 5 साल में if markets are witness to very strong rallies तो आपको 20%, 12 से ज्यादा मिल जाएगा, up to 20% मिल सकता है। बट अगले 5 साल में स्पेशली टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ दैट 5 year period, if you get a big, अगर कोई बड़ा मार्केट क्रैश आता है जैसा कि अप्रैल 2015 से अप्रैल 2020 के बीच में आया था, तो रिटर्न्स नेगेटिव भी हो सकते हैं. तो देन इट बिकम्स अ बिट ऑफ अ लॉटरी, बिकॉज अगले 5 साल में मार्केट कंडीशंस कैसे होते हैं वो किसी को नहीं पता है. And you are depend and something as important as your child's education, you are betting on a SIP whose outcome is entirely dependent on how market conditions are going to be over the next 5 years, and that market condition is not predictable, right? So this is the problem that we are trying to solve through AlphaSIP. नॉर्मल एसआईपी में मार्केट कंडीशंस अच्छा हुआ तो 20%, मार्केट कंडीशंस खराब हुआ तो नेगेटिव 5.82, -6 टू +20, इसके बीच में कहीं भी हो सकता है. अल्फासिप में हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि वी आर नॉट ट्राइंग टू हेल्प यू गेट 25-30% रिटर्न. व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू डू इज टू इंप्रूव द प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ 12% रिटर्न. व्हाट आई मीन बाय दैट इज दैट, जैसे मैंने बोला, जनवरी 2010 के बाद टोटल अभी तक 133 मंथ्स निकल गए हैं. इन 133 मंथ्स में सिर्फ 73 मंथ्स ऐसे थे जिनके केस में एसआईपी ओवर द नेक्स्ट 5 years generated a return of 12% or more than 12%. 73 out of 133 translates to a probability of only 55%. आप अस्यूम कर रहे हैं कि आपके एसआईपी से 12% का रिटर्न मिलेगा, बट द हिस्टोरिकल प्रोबेबिलिटी कि निफ्टी में 5 साल तक एसआईपी करो तो 12% का रिटर्न या उससे ज्यादा मिलता है हैज ओनली बीन 55%. एंड व्हाई आई एम सेइंग ओनली 55%? आई एम सेइंग ओनली 55% बिकॉज आप जब कॉइन टॉस करते हैं तो आपका कॉइन टॉस का गेस सही होगा, उसकी प्रोबेबिलिटी ओनली 50% ही होती है. सो which is and 55% is only 5 percentage point more than 50. So my limited point is the probability of getting 12% at the end of a 5-year SIP, 12% or more than 12%, is almost the same as the probability of getting a coin toss right. And that's why I say कि SIP से 12% का रिटर्न आपको मिलेगा, ये एक बहुत रिस्की एक्सपेक्टेशन है, इसका प्रोबेबिलिटी बहुत हाई नहीं है. अल्फासिप में हम कोशिश करते हैं कि ये जो 55% है, ये प्रोबेबिलिटी को हम बढ़ा के 90% प्लस तक ले जाए, राइट? तो ये कैसे करते हैं हम? तो द वे टू डू दैट इज, नॉर्मल एसआईपी में देयर इज नो मार्केट टाइमिंग. In AlphaSIP, we introduce an element of market timing. How do we introduce an element of market timing? So I'll just give you a flavor of how we do market timing. Earlier in the presentation, मैंने आपको बताया था कि one parameter that I look very closely is something called high yield spread or junk bond spread. The reason I have explained junk bond spread, as I mentioned earlier in this earlier video of mine, which I had published on 12th of April 2025. अगर आपको समझना है junk bond spread क्या होता है तो ये वीडियो आप जरूर देखिए, मैं इसका लिंक इस वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन में दे दूंगा. जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड के बारे में एक ही चीज मैं अभी आपको समझाना चाहता हूं, वो ये कि ये जो रेड लाइन है ये यूएस जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड्स पिछले 2007 के बाद यूएस जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड्स का ट्रेंड कैसा रहा है. एंड ये जो ब्लू लाइन है ये है निफ्टी. तो जैसे कि आप देख सकते हैं, रेड लाइन और ब्लू लाइन एकदम एक दूसरे के मिरर इमेजेस है. जब रेड लाइन ऊपर जाता है तो निफ्टी नीचे जाता है, एंड वाइस वर्सा. जब रेड लाइन नीचे आता है तो निफ्टी में एक रैली आता है. सो बेसिकली क्या करना है कि जब रेड लाइन ऊपर जा रहा है, दैट इज अ टाइम, दैट इज डेंजर. उस समय हमको स्टॉक मार्केट से निकल जाना है. Whenever this red line is going up at a very fast pace, that is not a good time to be in equities. वैसे समय में हमें इक्विटीज से निकल जाना पड़ेगा. तो रेड लाइन ऊपर जा रहा है, इसका हमें एक मैथमेटिकल रूल बनाना पड़ेगा टू डिसाइड व्हाट अमाउंट्स टू द रेड लाइन गोइंग अप एट अ वेरी फास्ट पेस. तो मैंने क्या दिखाया है, So what I am proposing, ये जो चार्ट है, this is the same chart. ये लास्ट 20 years का जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड है, ये लास्ट के 2 साल का जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड. I have just zoomed in into the same chart. How do we decide that this red line is going up at a very fast pace? उसके लिए करना ये पड़ेगा कि every month on the first trading day आप देखिए कि आपका ये जो रेड लाइन है वो कितने पे है on the first trading day of every month. And when I say on the first trading day of every month, check out the level of the red line. मेरा मतलब ये नहीं है कि उस दिन रेड लाइन का जो एब्सोल्यूट लेवल है वो मत देखो. एज ऑफ द फर्स्ट ट्रेडिंग डे ऑफ एवरी मंथ प्रीवियस 30 डेज का एवरेज क्या था वो देखो. Not that one single day's number, you look at the previous 30 days average as of the first trading day of every month. Then you go back 1 month. And then on the first trading day of the previous month, once again you check what was the average of the previous 30 days as of the first trading day of last month. तो आपको फर्स्ट ट्रेडिंग डे ऑफ लास्ट मंथ और फर्स्ट ट्रेडिंग डे ऑफ दिस मंथ में रेड लाइन का लेवल क्या था वो पता चल गया. Once you know ये दोनों लेवल, based on that you will be able to calculate that last month से ये month में के बीच में over the last 1 month junk bond spreads have gone up or gone down. And if they have gone up, then they have gone up by how much? If they have gone down, then they have gone down by how much? हमको क्या देखना है? For us, the danger sign is if they go up at a very fast pace, that is a danger sign for us. So the rule that I follow is that if the current in the current month, agar red line is above 3.75 and this red line has gone up by 5% or more than 5% over the last 1 month, that means ये red line अभी बहुत तेजी से ऊपर जा रहा है. In that case, I should get out of the equity markets. I should move to a liquid fund. अगर ये condition fulfill नहीं हो रहा है तो continue doing your SIP as it is. I'll repeat that once again. Every month, check the junk bond spread as of the first trading day of the current month. If the current junk bond spread, there are two conditions which must be met. First condition is that as of the current month, the junk bond spread should be 3.75% or more than 3.75. Second condition, over the last 1 month, पिछले एक महीने में, this red line, junk bond spread should have gone up by 5% or more than 5%. If both these conditions have been met, that means red line बहुत तेजी से ऊपर जा रहा है. इस महीने के लिए पूरा इक्विटी से निकल जाओ, लिक्विड फंड में सारा पैसा ट्रांसफर कर दो. That means your equity exposure of your portfolio should become zero. I mean, not just that month's SIP investment, the entire accumulated corpus you should switch to a liquid fund. If not, if these two conditions have not been met, then continue to remain 100% in equities. And this you do every month on the first trading day for 5 years. ये अगर आप करते हैं, then what is the outcome of a 5-year SIP? Normal SIP में हमने देखा worst case negative 5.82, best case 20.35. अभी ये जो जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड लगा के हम लोग SIP करेंगे तो उसका बेस्ट केस देखो 25.93, almost 26%. But most importantly, look at the worst case. Worst case is positive 8.26. पहले negative 6 था, अभी positive 8 हो गया. तो almost 14 percentage points का improvement. Even the median has improved from 12.5 to 14.39%. Just जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड से मैंने को यूज करके मैंने एक टाइमिंग इंट्रोड्यूस किया मेरे एसआईपी में. See, all this you can do yourself. If you are ready to spend every month on the first trading day, you are willing to go to the Fed's website, look at what is the junk bond spread and do that calculation that whether those two conditions have been met or not. Then you don't need my help. You can do it yourself using ULIP. You can do it using mutual funds. Anything that you like, right? This is what you get when you use one liquid fund on the debt side and Nifty on the equity side. Now coming to the second improvement. Now see how much the improvement happens in. पहले हमने देखा था कि नॉर्मल एसआईपी के केस में 133 मंथ्स है. आउट ऑफ 133 ओनली 73 मंथ्स ऐसे है जिनके केस में 5-year SIP returns are 12% or more than 12%. 73 out of 133 means 55%. अभी ये जो जंक बॉन्ड स्प्रेड के बेसिस में हमने मार्केट टाइमिंग किया है, तो अभी हमारा out of 133 we have 103 months where the return is 12% or more than 12%. So the probability goes up to, from 55 it goes up to 77%. So it's a significant improvement in probability of 12% return, right? Now coming to the most important change that we have introduced, this is what we have changed from AlphaSIP 1.0 to AlphaSIP 2.0. Right now, all I am using on the equity side, I am using Nifty. On the debt side, I am using a liquid fund. Now, as I mentioned to you, there is a whole, Nifty is an index. Like Nifty, there is something called Nifty Momentum Index. Nifty Momentum Index में होता क्या है कि let's say there is an index called Nifty 500 Multicap Momentum Quality 50 Index. Nifty 500 आपको पता है, these are the top 500 stocks of the country. Out of Nifty 500, every 6 months, the people who have created this index will choose the top 50 stocks which have gone up at the fastest pace over the last 6 months. They become the part of this Nifty 500 Momentum 50 Index. Every 6 months, the top 50 stocks changes, right? So you keep churning this portfolio every 6 months. That's how you, and this is an index. This is an index which has been around since 2005. और इस इंडेक्स का निफ्टी के तुलना में परफॉर्मेंस कितना बेटर था वो समझने के लिए आई विल गिव यू वन कंपैरिजन. ये इंडेक्स का शुरू हुआ था अप्रैल 2005 में. अगर आपने अप्रैल 2005 में निफ्टी में 1 लाख रुपया इन्वेस्ट किया होता तो जनवरी 2026 तक वो 1 लाख का वैल्यू 12.6 लाख हो जाता. सेम 1 लाख अगर आपने निफ्टी 500 मल्टीकैप मोमेंटम क्वालिटी 50 इंडेक्स में इन्वेस्ट किया होता उसका वैल्यू 41 लाख हो जाता. So you're talking about more than 3.5 times outperformance compared to Nifty. Now the same logic, the junk bond spread वाला जो logic हमने लगाया वो if we apply this to this momentum index instead, so on the equity side we were using Nifty so far, instead of Nifty now we use this momentum 50 index, and on the debt side we use a liquid fund. So what is the result that we get? Best case 35%, worst case 9%, look at the median case 24%. निफ्टी को यूज करके जब हम जंग बॉन्ड स्प्रेड वाला एसआईपी कर रहे थे तो हमारा वर्स्ट केस था, हमारा मीडियन था 14.39, अभी मीडियन 10% पॉइंट से 10 परसेंटेज पॉइंट से बढ़ गया, 24% हो गया है मीडियन रिटर्न, राइट? इट्स अ स्पेक्टेकुलर इंप्रूवमेंट इन मीडियन रिटर्न. सो द रीजन व्हाई वी कॉल दिस AlphaSIP 2.0 इज बिकॉज अभी तक ये जो मोमेंटम इंडेक्स है ये सिर्फ एक मोमेंटम इंडेक्स ही था. For us to participate in this index, some ULIP company or some mutual fund company has to offer a fund which replicates this index. And that is what has now become possible. Abhi finally last एक साल में the Bajaj Allianz ULIPs that we sell, Bajaj Allianz has now started offering, they have created a fund which replicates this index. And that's why we are able to use this fund as part of the AlphaSIP strategy. In fact, there are a bunch of momentum strategies, and they have launched multiple momentum funds. तो हम लोग हमारे स्ट्रैटेजी में सिर्फ ये मोमेंटम इंडेक्स के वाले फंड्स यूज करते हैं. हम बजाज के जो एक्टिवली मैनेज उनके फंड मैनेजर मैनेज फंड्स है वो यूज नहीं करते हैं. वी लार्जली मेक यूज ऑफ दीज इंडेक्स फंड्स वेयर एज यू से सिर्फ एक मार्केट टाइमिंग पैरामीटर यूज किया है हमने. उससे वर्स्ट केस रिटर्न इज 9%. 9% रिटर्न मतलब एफडी से भी आपका वर्स्ट केस में भी 5 ईयर रिटर्न्स आर बेटर देन एफडी, एंड मीडियन रिटर्न इज 24.07%. Now let's look at what is the probability of 12% return or more. Probability of 12% return, 127 months out of 133 months. That's a probability of 95%. 95% of the time historically returns have been more than 12% or 12% or more than that. Now, once again, I cannot stress enough, ऑल दिस इज हिस्टोरिकल परफॉर्मेंस. मैं बिल्कुल भी ये सजेस्ट नहीं करना चाहता हूं कि ये हिस्टोरिकल परफॉर्मेंस दिखा के मैं कोई फ्यूचर परफॉर्मेंस का कोई गारंटी नहीं दे रहा हूं. Treat this for whatever it is worth. This is historical performance and treat it as such. Don't take it as a guarantee of future performance. मैं ये कोई disclaimer देने के लिए नहीं कह रहा हूँ, मैं seriously कह रहा हूँ. But for whatever it is worth, इतना तो तय है कि नॉर्मल निफ्टी में मार्केट टाइमिंग के बिना जो एसआईपी कर रहे हैं उससे मार्केट टाइमिंग करके जो एसआईपी करते हैं उसका आउटकम एटलीस्ट हिस्टोरिकल परफॉर्मेंस हैज बीन रेडिकली बेटर. वो तो क्लियरली डेटा से निकल के आ रहा है. दैट्स द लिमिटेड पॉइंट आई एम ट्राइंग टू मेक. दिस इज द आउटकम ऑफ अ एसआईपी वेयर आई एम यूजिंग ओनली वन मार्केट टाइमिंग वेरिएबल. जंग बॉन्ड स्प्रेड, सिर्फ एक मार्केट टाइमिंग वेरिएबल को यूज करके मेरे एसआईपी का आउटकम इतना ज्यादा इंप्रूव कर गया. हमारा जो अल्फासिप 2.0 है उसमें हम जंग बॉन्ड स्प्रेड जैसे मोर देन 15 वेरिएबल्स को यूज करके हम लोग हर महीने आपके इसका रिवैलेंसिंग करते हैं. और जब आप 15 वेरिएबल्स यूज करते हैं, ऑन द लेफ्ट साइड इज निफ्टी मोमेंटम फंड, जंग बॉन्ड्स with AlphaSIP with only one market timing parameter, which is junk bond spread. ये left side वाला. Best case 35, worst case 9%, median is 24%. When you apply all the 15 parameters of AlphaSIP, best case 45.5%. Worst case is 24%. Median is 31%. So staggering improvement in both worst case and median case performance. Again, I cannot stress enough. मैं बिल्कुल ये सजेस्ट नहीं कर रहा हूं कि ये कोई गारंटी ऑफ फ्यूचर परफॉर्मेंस है. ऑल दिस इज बैक टेस्टेड, ऑल दिस इज हिस्टोरिकल परफॉर्मेंस. इनफैक्ट आई इवन स्ट्रेस कि हमारा ये वी स्टार्टेड ऑफरिंग दिस ओनली फ्रॉम 2023 ऑनवर्ड्स. तो हमारे कोई किसी भी क्लाइंट का अभी तक 5 ईयर साइकिल भी कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ है. दिस इज ऑल बैक टेस्टेड रिजल्ट्स. So take it with a pinch of salt. For whatever backtested results are worth, this is what we get. But for whatever it is worth, I think the results are clearly indicating that market timing introduce करके आप अपने SIP के outcome को significantly improve कर सकते हैं. Last, and probability of 12% return, obviously all the worst case return is more than 12. So historical performance is 100%, right? Now, the only so much for this is AlphaSIP AlphaSIP 2.0. हम लोग ये जो now coming to the actual execution of the AlphaSIP, as I mentioned earlier, ये जो monthly switching है, हम एक समय था जब हम लोग ये म्यूचुअल फंड में यूज करके हम ये स्विचिंग करते थे. वी यूज्ड टू स्विच बिटवीन अ इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड एंड अ डेट म्यूचुअल फंड. But over time, what we realized is that even though the performance remains very good, but a good part of the return is lost because of higher taxation. Because आप जब म्यूचुअल फंड को यूज करके ये स्विचिंग करते हो, तो every time you switch, there is a capital gains that accrues to you, and you have to pay capital gains tax on that. और because हम लोग हर महीने स्विच करते हैं, every month we do monthly switching. That's why most of the gains are short-term gains, and short-term gains pay the rate of taxation is even higher. Right? So that's why over time we started realizing that mutual funds are probably not the most efficient way of doing this. That's when we started offering this using ULIPs. Now I know ULIPs as a लोगों का ULIP सुनते ही कान खड़े हो जाते हैं because ULIP में historically charges बहुत ज्यादा रहे हैं, और ULIP सुन के आपके कान खड़े होने भी चाहिए. But I also want to explain why we still choose to execute the strategy using ULIP. Most important reason why we choose ULIP is because ULIP में एक बहुत बड़ा tax advantage है. When you switch between funds in ULIPs, there is no tax impact. That is not a taxable event because in case of ULIP, there is a lock-in of 5 years. When you invest in a ULIP, you cannot stop your SIP, you cannot withdraw your money in the first 5 years. But because of this lock-in, government gives you a big tax concession. During this 5 years, आप अपने फंड्स के बीच में जो भी स्विचिंग करिएगा, वो स्विचिंग पे आपको कोई टैक्स नहीं देना पड़ेगा. Not just that, at the end of 5 years, once if you decide to withdraw your money, even the maturity amount is completely tax free if your investment amount is within 2.5 lakh rupees per year. For the first for 5 years, if your annual investment amount is 2.5 lakh rupees per year or less than that. 2.5 lakh rupees per year translates to about 21,000 rupees per month. If your investment amount was within that, then the entire maturity amount is also tax free. And this is a tax concession that is there only in case of ULIP और किसी में नहीं है. इसलिए मैं अपने सारे investors को I suggest that this concession is available in no other mutual fund में नहीं है, direct stocks में नहीं है. Even if you don't believe in my switching logic, just do a normal SIP in any of the funds of Bajaj or HDFC Life, set up a normal SIP in that fund and avail this tax-free benefit, because this tax-free benefit is not there in mutual fund. If, my simple logic is, if you're doing a 50,000 rupee SIP, आपका पहला 20,000 do it in a ULIP, use this tax-free allowance, and then उसके बाद पैसा बचता है वो mutual fund में करो, right? Now coming to the question कि ULIP में क्यों करते हो? ULIP में तो charges इतने ज़्यादा है, right? And this is correct. Historically, ULIP companies have made a fool of investors. और उसका सबसे बड़ा कारण है कि ULIP companies के केस में ये charges इतने ज़्यादा होते थे, and the charge which used to hurt investors the most used to be something called allocation charge. Allocation charge is nothing but म्यूचुअल फंड्स में भी एक जमाने में एंट्री लोड होता था. एंट्री लोड मतलब आपने 100 रुपीज इन्वेस्ट किया, म्यूचुअल फंड कंपनी ने एक रुपया या 2 रुपया काट लिया. Only 99 or 98 rupees gets invested. That 1 to 2 rupees that got deducted is called the entry load. So entry load has been banned by SEBI in mutual funds back in 2009, I think. उसके बाद से इंडिया में म्यूचुअल फंड कंपनीज आर नॉट एबल टू चार्ज एंट्री लोड. यूलिप के केस में एंट्री लोड अभी भी चल रहा है. In ULIP, it's not called entry load, it's called allocation charge. So not only is allocation entry load still prevalent in ULIP, the quantum of entry load is egregiously high. So mutual fund में जब था उस समय 1 to 2% था. म्यूचुअल यूलिप के केस में अभी भी allocation charges most of the ULIP में होता है, और the rate of allocation charge is 6 to 7%. आपने 100 rupees डाला, 6 rupees gets deducted, only 94 gets invested. तो 6 या 7 रुपया अगर आपका पहले ही कट गया तो अच्छे से अच्छे साल में भी in a good year, if the Nifty has given you a return of let's say 15%, but the ULIP company has deducted 7 rupees from that, so your return is going to be only 8%. In a bad year, if the Nifty itself, if the market itself has let's say delivered 5%, and the ULIP company has deducted let's say 7%, 7% at source, your return is going to be negative 2%. तो इसीलिए यूलिप इन अ बैड ईयर योर रिटर्न इज नेगेटिव, इन अ गुड ईयर योर रिटर्न इज सिंगल डिजिट. तो ओवरऑल 5 साल में कभी भी किसी का अच्छा रिटर्न नहीं बनता था. तो दैट्स व्हाई यूलिप कंपनीज, यूलिप में हिस्टोरिकली किसी का भी रिटर्न नहीं बना है. और यही कारण है कि हम लोग हिस्टोरिकली हम लोग भी यूलिप नहीं बेचते थे. But there's a fundamental change that has happened in the last 2-3 years. We started selling ULIPs only from 2023 onwards. And why we started selling? We started selling because ULIP companies were approaching us कि सर हमारा भी माल बेचिए. We would tell them कि हम लोग हमारे म्यूचुअल फंड कस्टमर्स को क्या बोल के यूलिप बेचेंगे. म्यूचुअल फंड में कोई एंट्री लोड नहीं है, आप लोग एंट्री लोड लगा रहे हो वो भी 6-7% का. हम म्यूचुअल फंड में जो इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं वो कभी ये एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगा. So that's when these ULIP companies realize that they have to, if they want to get a share of these mutual fund customers, then they have to come up with a product जिसमें कोई entry load नहीं है. So in 2023, these ULIP companies came up with some of these large, so Bajaj and HDFC, they were the first to come up with this category of ULIP called zero allocation charge ULIP, जिसमें कोई allocation charges नहीं है, कोई entry load नहीं है. Whatever you invest, the entire amount gets invested. The only charge that is there in case of ULIP in case of the zero allocation ULIP is ULIP में आप जब इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो ULIP में आपको एक certain amount of insurance भी मिलता है. Let's say if you invest 2.5 lakh rupees per year for next 5 years, so whatever is your annual investment amount, उसका 10 times का आपको insurance मिलता है. So if you invest 2.5 lakh rupees per year, then you get 10 times of that, which is 25 lakhs का insurance भी आपको मिलता है. तो इस इंश्योरेंस का जो प्रीमियम है ये पहले आपके इन्वेस्टमेंट अमाउंट से कट जाता है और बाकी का अमाउंट इन्वेस्ट होता है. So and the amount that gets deducted to pay for the insurance is what is called mortality charge. So there is no allocation charges in the ULIPs that we use. The only charge that you have to pay is what is called mortality charges. Mortality charges के चलते आपका return कितना थोड़ा कम हो जाता है obviously, right? मैं कह रहा हूँ कि if you want a breakup of all the charges, then you can message us on the on our WhatsApp number. Our WhatsApp number will be there in the description and it's there in the screen on the screen of all my videos. My sales team can explain to you, give you a breakup of all the charges. But मैं मोटा मोटा आपको बता रहा हूँ कि the zero allocation ULIPs that we use, उसके थ्रू अगर आप इन्वेस्ट करेंगे तो आपका जो रिटर्न है उसमें सिर्फ you incur this mortality charge, जिसके चलते your returns take a hit of about 1%, which basically means by one, what I mean by that is that, as I just showed you, this is the performance of AlphaSIP 2, historical performance of AlphaSIP 2.0. Worst case return 24%, best case return 45%. So your return can be anywhere between 24% to 45% if this historical performance holds true going forward. Let's say you are unlucky, you got the worst case return of 24%. This is the return generated by the AlphaSIP strategy. Mortality charges के चलते ये रिटर्न से 1% कम हो जाएगा. 24 will become 23. About 1 to 1.25% is how much is the hit that you take because of mortality charges. And I won't even call it a hit because that mortality charges के against में आपको एक insurance भी मिल रहा है. Basically, over the next 5 years, God forbid if something happens to you, then your investment is fully covered. If you are able, if something happens to you before you have completed the investment cycle, then the insurance company will take care of the final investment. So just for a 1% hit to your return, now worst case return 24% है historical performance. अगर because of mortality charges, this 24 will become 23 or at worst 22.5. So for a 1% hit to returns, your returns are still more than 20%, and you also get, you're fully covered if something happens to you, your beneficiary will still get the money. I think that makes for a very, very compelling proposition. So this is, but the only thing that you should be cognizant of, ये जो mortality charge है, this is a function of your age. If the insured person, if the investor is a younger person, then the mortality charge is lower. It's around 0.9 to 1%. If the insured person, if the policy holder is older, more than 45%, 45 years, then the mortality charge can be up to 1.5%. मोर्टेलिटी चार्ज को घटाने का भी एक तरीका है. आप यूलिप पॉलिसी जब खरीदते हैं तो इंश्योर्ड पर्सन खुद को मत रखिए. यू हैव अ ऑप्शन टू हैव द इंश्योर्ड पर्सन समबडी एल्स इन द फैमिली आल्सो. अगर इफ यू आर मोर देन 45 years old, then the best, then what we suggest is you should have your son as the insured person. तो फिर क्या होगा, मोर्टेलिटी चार्ज जो कटेगा वो आपके सन के एज के हिसाब से कटेगा. तो automatically फिर mortality rate charges will come to 1% or even at times less than 1%, right? So for just about 1 to 1.5% hit to your returns, you still end up, based on historical performance, with a return of more than 20%, and you are fully insured during the course of the 5 years. So this is what AlphaSIP 2.0 is. Okay? In order not to make the presentation longer than this, I will end the presentation here. I'll be happy to answer if there are any questions here.
Sir,
Anji.
yeah. Sir, I have a question regarding the mortality age. So the question is, so I want to start two SIP, one for me and one for my father, both 2.5 lakhs. But my father is 65 and I am 33. So how much the mortality? So by your presentation, the mortality charge will be around 3% something, right, for his age. So will that affect on the overall returns, even if I have to pay 3%?
I'll show you exactly how much you pay for mortality.
Thank you, sir.
ये जो चार्ट आप ये चार्ट दिख रहा है अभी सबको स्क्रीन पे.
Yes,
this chart shows for every age, what is the mortality charge? So for if you are up to 25 years, it's less than 1%. For 30 years, it's 1%. Up to 40 years, also it is 1.2. 45 पे जाके ये 1.5% हो जाता है. For 50 years old person, it is 2%. For 55, it will be even higher. It will be about 4%. तो हम लोग क्या सजेस्ट करते हैं कि if you are more up to 45, I think it's 1.5 is still reasonable. So up to 45, हम लोग सजेस्ट करते हैं कि आप खुद को इंश्योर्ड पर्सन रखो. If you are above 45, then we suggest that you should have your son or grandson as the insured person. So the gentleman who asked that question, in my I think the see for most you won't give you insurance if you are more than 60. So if you want to take a AlphaSIP in your father's PAN, then the only option is to have yourself as the insured person. So in your policy, you will be the policy holder and you will be the insured person. In your father's policy, he will be the policy holder, but you will be the insured person. So insurance cover, you will get double insurance.
Understood, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Next question. Anyone else has a question?
Sir, Abhijit here.
Okay.
Last year in March, I invested in HDFC Life. I think that was there were some issues that you were facing with Bajaj at that point of time.
Yeah.
So do we get any benefit of this AlphaSIP 2?
So,
any funds HDFC has come up on Nifty?
Sir, so in case of, we all our Bajaj clients, even the earlier clients who had invested in the earlier version of AlphaSIP, we are automatically upgrading all of them to AlphaSIP 2.0. In case of HDFC, unfortunately, they have launched one momentum. So see, the main difference between AlphaSIP 1.0 and 2.0 is this the momentum fund. So HDFC has launched this AlphaSIP, this momentum fund, but they have not yet made this available for the ULIPs that we sell. So we are still we are in discussion with them. We have impressed upon them that this is something that Bajaj has already done, and we want to offer this to our HDFC clients also. So as and when HDFC makes this fund available for ULIP for so the ULIP product that we sell is called Click to Invest. HDFC Life Click to Invest. As soon as the HDFC's momentum fund is made available to us for a Click to Invest product, we will start replicating it for our last year's HDFC clients also. This is actually one of the most important reasons why we are not onboarding any fresh clients in HDFC in order to create a pressure on the company so that they make this fund available to us for our last year's client. I hope that this will be resolved soon. But as of now, the funds that we have, the HDFC doesn't offer this product, offer the momentum fund to us in the Click to Invest product.
Sir, I understand these momentum funds work very well when the market is on the upswing. But when the market is downswing, will it be a negative?
Yes, so the downswings are also more aggressive. So last year, let's say after September of 2024, the Nifty corrected by almost 16% between September 24 and March of 25.
April.
Or April of 25. During the same time, most of these momentum funds corrected by anywhere between 25 to 30%. So the correction is also far more aggressive. But my limited point is, that's the whole point of AlphaSIP, right? In AlphaSIP, that's the reason. In AlphaSIP, what we try to do is to expose you to the markets during an upturn and get you out of markets during a downturn. So even in case of, let's say, the HDFC policy that you would have bought from us last year, the funds that we use are far more mid-cap oriented than large-cap oriented. Because we are pretty confident that during a rally, a mid-cap fund will go up more than a large-cap fund. And during a correction, a mid cap while will crash more than a large cap fund. But if with a 70 to 80% accuracy, if I'm able to get you out of the markets during a downturn, so the downturn you're largely protected. You're only exposed to the market during the upside, and during the upside run, it's the mid cap which is doing more better than the large cap. And in the same vein, it's the momentum funds which are doing even better during the bull run. And during the downturn, even though the downturn is also quite catastrophic, at least with a 70 to 80% accuracy, hopefully the AlphaSIP strategy would have gotten you out of the markets.
Like last 1 year, the large cap funds comparatively performed well than the mid and small.
Because last 1 year the returns have markets have generally been during a downturn, the large caps will do better than a mid cap and small cap, right? And last 1 year markets have been flat. During such times, if the AlphaSIP strategy in its purest form, if I'm able to get you out of markets during this downturn, then that's the intent there. That even if I'm using a riskier fund, I will keep you exposed to the markets only during upside, and the downside to a large extent I'll keep you protected.
So is there any multi-asset allocation fund under the ULIP? Because those are the funds which comparatively perform better.
I have not. So in multi Bajaj, so obviously clearly doesn't have. HDFC, I'll have to explore. Give me a day. Let me just check on the HDFC basket, and I'll come back to you. If during a flat market, you are right, a multi-asset fund is a more stable option. I don't know if Bajaj for sure doesn't have. HDFC, I'll come back to you.
Like if when you are parking the funds in a debt fund, like liquid fund, the returns are pretty low, maybe at the range of 6 to 7% at the max.
But in a flat market, you're
protecting the capital.
Protecting. So there, the intent is to protect the capital, and it's not as if that we see over a 5-year horizon, maximum 25 to 30% of the time you will be in debt. Over a 5-year period, your 70-75% of the time, our logic historically has been in equity. You won't be in debt for a very long time.
On an event of a recession, and the market goes down and it takes longer time to recover again, will that impact the returns over a 5-year period?
It can, I think, but I think what really impacts the worst impact is if you're not able to get out of markets in time when that first wave of downside happens, because that initial downside is the markets can take 2 years to recover, and that will dent your returns to a certain extent. But what is far more catastrophic is if you are able to my base case is that in the first half of 2026 we should get a good jump. So from here, if we see the Nifty going up to, let's say, whatever 28, 29, 30,000 levels, and most of these mid caps, small caps, and momentum indices will probably, if that happens, then will do even better than that. If we are able to capture that upside, and we are able to lock in that return, and on top of that, we are able to get out in time so that the correction that follows, a 40-50% correction, we take no more than 10% of hit of that correction. As long as we have been able to lock in the upside before the crash, and we have avoided bulk of the downside of the correction, believe me, I think even if the recovery takes longer, we will still be well placed.
Like under the present market scenario, do you see the index Nifty 50 index going up to 28, 29,000?
I do. I explained to you the reasons, right? If obviously we need the war to come to an end.
Yes, if there is some good news of the war coming to an end,
but
the Nifty can take up.
But because once the war comes to an end, as I was explaining on the background, what is happening is that Fed has started already pumping very large amounts of liquidity into the financial markets, and the markets will right now they are not being able to take the benefit of that easy liquidity condition because of the overhang of the war. But once the war conditions have been resolved, the easy liquidity conditions that is being created by Fed, the markets will be able to take the benefit of that. So yes, I'm at this stage I'm reiterating again and again my base case is that we should see that upside.
So I think you can kindly consider the allocation to multi-asset allocation.
I will come back.
Maybe 30%,
Sure.
because it acts
Sure.
as a better cushioning factor.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Last 1 year, I saw the return coming to around 7%.
Yes.
Tentatively.
Yes. I will come back to you. I'll let you know on the multi-asset.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So another point, if I want to go with the AlphaSIP 2, and my son, they already have both of them under last year click to invest HDFC. So they are already insured under those schemes. So if I want to again reinsure, like if I take the scheme in my name and in my wife's name and put the insurance on them, is it possible?
Have your sons as the insured person and do it in the name of every PAN gets 2.5 lakh rupee. I have clients who have a joint family, Marwadi family, father, mother, and the HUF of the father, that is 3 PANs. Then they have 2 sons. So both sons, their wives, and each son having their own HUF. So total 9 PANs in the family. Everyone, so nine AlphaSIPs they have done. So
another point, sir, I'm going on the annual payout of 2.5. So that is a better option, or it is better to split it into 12 equal parts around the year? Which is a better?
I don't think there's any difference, but I mean, we suggest people to go to the monthly option, because then you would have done then it automatically gets if because every year to do that manual investment, God forbid if there is a slip on our side or your side, and with the ULIP company gives you a grace period of 1 month. Within that, if that investment doesn't come in, then the policy can become inactive for some time, and then there are charges to revive it. So just to avoid that, we say that better to do monthly SIPs. But if anyway we keep track from our side, it doesn't make a difference. You can do monthly or yearly.
And the day the money is remitted, the NAV on that particular day is captured, isn't it?
Usually, yes. So they have a cutoff time, but as long as the money comes in before that,
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
And sir, what happens after 5 years? Like, if I don't want to withdraw the money?
So we'll keep rebalancing that. I mean, there's after 5 years there's a charge that so the current rebalancing commitment is for 5 years. So we give you 2 options where you can continue doing this, doing what you are the current investment with some charges, or we also give you an option to reinvest it in a new policy. And continue with the investment, in which case there won't be any charges. So we'll give you that option at the end of 5 years. Sorry, somebody else has any questions?
सर ये HUF के केस में
इंश्योर्ड
पर्सन कैसे रहता है?
HUF के केस में आप HUF के नाम पे आप लेंगे और इंश्योर्ड पर्सन आप any member of the HUF can be an insured person. तो HUF के नाम पे के अकाउंट से इन्वेस्ट करेंगे और आपको इन द नेम ऑफ द HUF का जो पैन है उसको एक पूरा टैक्स फ्री अलाउंस 2.5 लाख का मिलेगा.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, I have a question, but I written in.
Sorry, what is it? As I understand, following completion of 5 years lock-in period, The AlphaSIP Pro Max portfolio permits withdrawal under a perpetuity mode of approximately 1% of the investment capital per month with adjustments for inflation. Please confirm whether this interpretation is accurate. After opening the Pro account, is it possible to add funds periodically? Could you please explain how allocation can be justified relative to PMS? I'll take the last question. See, so what Mr. Ghosh is asking is about, Mr. Ghoshal is asking is, so there is an option where we also offer you lump sum investment option. So AlphaSIP 2.0 is for monthly SIP or yearly SIP. Apart from that, we also have a lump sum investment product called Alpha Lump Sum and Alpha Lump Sum Pro. The minimum requirement is 25 lakhs and goes up to 50 lakhs. In the lump sum option, we offer you an option to make monthly withdrawals at the end of 5 years. So in most cases, it will depend on the age at which you are starting. But in most cases, we give you an option to do if you do a 25 lakh rupee lump sum investment, we give you an option to do a withdrawal of up to 25,000, 1% of the investment amount. 25 lakhs के against में आप 25,000 per month withdraw कर सकते हैं, and this 25 from year 6. And every year, this 25,000 we will also increase by about 5 to 6% in line with inflation for the rest of your life. So lump sum जिन लोग करते हैं उनके लिए एक तरह का हम इसको एक पेंशन प्लान की तरह हम स्ट्रक्चर करते हैं, जिसमें आपको जितना अमाउंट आप इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं 5 साल बाद से उसका 1% आपको एवरी मंथ मिलने लगेगा, और वो 1% अमाउंट भी हर साल इन्फ्लेशन के साथ बढ़ता रहेगा. So it's a very, so then you do that math, whatever is your monthly investment. अभी आपको अगर आपको एक रिटायरमेंट, इसको आप एक बहुत रिटायरमेंट सोल्यूशन की तरह यूज कर सकते हैं. अगर आपको रिटायर करने के बाद लेट्स से लगता है कि महीने का 50,000 चाहिए, तो आप एक 50 लाख का कर सकते हैं. 50 लाख में आपको 50,000 5 साल बाद से मिलने लगेगा, एंड 50,000 हर महीने 5-6% से बढ़ता भी रहेगा. So this is sort of this is another structure that this is an optional feature that we offer in case of, for our lump sum investment clients.
So under this scheme, which are the funds, like allocation of the money in the funds?
Same. The allocation of money is the same in all our AlphaSIP options. Lump sum, SIP. Every month we have.
ULIP only?
It's a part of ULIP only. That's why in the first 5 years there is no withdrawal.
Okay.
At the end of 5 years, once the withdrawal is allowed, we will allow you monthly withdrawals.
So those withdrawals will be tax free.
No, for lump sum investment, it's not tax free. It will be taxed at 12.5%. Okay. If you tax free is only when your monthly, if your SIP investment was within 2.5 lakh rupees per year.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So, sir, excuse me.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So if I say 50,000 per month, so 50,000 per month translate to around 6 lakhs a year. That will come under entire tax bracket, right? In which tax bracket I am in?
No. So the entire 6 lakh, see, whenever abhi mutual fund mein bhi jaise hota hai, agar aap, let's say if you invest 50 lakhs and 5 years later that 50 lakhs has become whatever amount, and let's say it has become 70 lakhs. 70 lakhs mein se agar aap 6 lakhs withdraw karte hai, so out of this 6 lakhs, some amount is principal, some amount is gain. So only the gain portion is what you will get taxed for.
Okay.
This entire 6 lakhs will, out of this 6 lakhs, you आप मान के चलो about I'll have to do that calculation, but in the initial years the gain is less, the principal is more. As years go by, out of this 6 lakh the proportion of gain becomes higher and principal becomes lower, but this entire 6 lakhs is not not taxable. Out of this, only the amount which is gain is what will be taxable, and that too at the rate of 12.5%.
Okay, sir. Actually, I have a confusion. PMS and this, which one will be the better? I'm not asking. I understand your product and others, but it's a
So I'll
realistic
tell you.
answer.
So I'll tell you why.
Advice.
I take a lot of pride in. I get this question very often. The reason I believe that what we offer is fundamentally superior to a traditional PMS product is PMS में कोई asset allocation नहीं होता. PMS will, even if the PMS manager has a crystal ball which is telling him कि कल crash होने वाला है, even then he will not switch your money to debt. He will only keep playing, rotating your money within equity funds or stocks. So, and that's what makes PMS, in my view, very risky, especially in the current conditions, where, as I said, my base case view is second half of 2026, we will probably get a recession, which will be accompanied by a large stock market crash. ऐसा अगर होता है, तो PMS का पैसा तो वो कभी डेट में नहीं लेके जाएगा, और डेट में नहीं लेके जाएगा तो when you get a
गिरना
big
ही है,
crash, वो तो गिरेगा
गिरना
ही
ही है.
गिरेगा, right? Because they have a big conflict of interest. Equity में होता क्या है? I think it's a SEBI, but I think most probably because it's a SEBI guideline that equity में जितना पैसा है, they can charge you a certain percentage of the equity corpus. The moment the money is in liquid fund or debt fund, what they can charge will be a fraction of what they can charge for the money which is in equity. So there's a big margin difference. In our case, वैसा कोई conflict, so that's why they will never want to. मतलब इक्विटी में लेट्स से दे चार्ज यू 1% or 1.5%. डेट में दे विल बी the charges, the maximum they will be able to charge you will probably be 0.2, 0.3, 0.4%. So it's like it's a fraction of what they can charge in case of equity. For us, that conflict of interest does not arise because ULIP companies do not. We get a flat brokerage based on the amount that has been invested. We do not. The brokerage is not dependent on whether the money is in equity fund or debt fund. So we don't have any conflict of interest. For us, if we believe that if liquidity conditions are tight, there is going to be a crash, I will move you to 100% debt because I don't have any such conflict of interest.
Okay, so as per the safety purpose and tax purpose, your AlphaSIP Pro Max is much better than the
100%
PMS.
is much, and the second part is obviously the switching that happens between stocks that the PMS company does. Every time they sell one stock and buy another stock, it's taxable for you.
Taxable.
In AlphaSIP there is any switch is not taxable.
Not taxable. Then on that ground, Pro Max is much better option than PMS.
Yeah.
If I see.
Any day.
And if your company, suppose after 20 years down the line, if I consider it as my pension fund, so how we will assure it?
See, I'm not. So again, this is the pension structure that I mentioned. None of this is a guarantee. So I don't see the moment. I don't want to even remotely suggest that anything that all of this is predicated that I will be able to generate 12-13% return for you, and none of this is, again, I'm stressing, all of this is based on historical performance. Historically, based on the AlphaSIP logic, my worst case performance has never been. I showed you with the momentum funds, even the worst case is almost 24%, right? But going forward, can we get a recession where there is a recession lasting 5 years, and as a result, my
like
past
China
performance
market index not move for a couple of years.
Correct. If there is a war between China and Taiwan, and because of that, markets, the 40% correction recovery doesn't happen for 5 years, will I still be able to deliver worst case 24%? No way. And I'm not even suggesting I'll be able to. All I'm saying, based on my past performance, this is a structure that I have come up with. There is a reasonably good chance based on historical performance, and I have not done the historical testing only during good times. I have done the historical testing during COVID, during 2008, all that period I have taken, and based on that, I have a belief that over a 5-year period, I should be able to deliver at least 12-13% return. But again, I am stressing, don't treat this as a guarantee, right? If you have 100 rupees, give me 50 rupees. Remaining 50 rupees, if you are a retired person, keep it in FD. I'm repeating, don't give me my entire money.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, sir. Venkat here. I have
Yeah.
a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So this Bajaj Alliance, right? So if we invest in this fund, right? So will they invest directly in the stocks or they invest in any ETF? Because the liquidity is one thing I am worried. For example, if you are investing 100 crores in a Reliance stock or a HDFC Bank, right? There will not be an issue.
No,
But
that risk is not there, Venkat. I told you, right, that don't use any actively, and we do not use a large cap fund or a mid cap fund of Bajaj. We only invest in the fund of Bajaj which replicates the Nifty Momentum Index. So a Nifty Momentum Index is an index fund. An index
yeah,
fund
yeah,
will never have a liquidity issue.
yeah. So they will replicate. For example, there are 1 to 3 stocks. So the Bajaj fund itself directly invests the money coming in into
So
these
so
stocks.
so I don't know if they invest. I'm making this is my informed guess. There are some ULIP companies which manually replicate that index, and there are ULIP companies which simply invest in the ETF of a mutual. So these momentum indices are also available in the form of a ETF, which is offered by a number of mutual fund companies. So ULIP companies are allowed to invest in the ETF
Yeah,
of right.
yeah. I
So
have seen one ETF which is Axis. The volumes are very low, hardly 10,000, 5,000 in a daily volume. So I'm worried like if we put the money with
uh,
this fund, right? They will invest
uh,
in this ETF.
uh,
Suddenly, they might cause some spike and
हाँ,
no
तो
buyers. Yeah,
but Axis will never have a liquidity. See that ETF might have low volumes, but
right.
aggregate the underlying stocks
Yeah,
in
underlying
that
stocks
index.
definitely will have very good
Huh.
liquidity.
So
Yeah,
even if see Axis ETF might having lower volume basically just means that ETF might not be very popular. But
yeah.
there will never be a scenario where Axis is not able to replicate that index because of liquidity
Okay.
issues.
So it's not like Bajaj will go to the NSE exchange and search for this access and they will buy this ETF or they will not do that. You're telling that they will.
See, firstly, I don't know what Bajaj is doing, whether they are manually replicating the index or they are investing through a ETF offered by AMC. But if they offer it through AMC, they will do it. They, they will do it with a ETF provider which has better volumes, uh,
Okay.
rather than most probably the likes of a SBI or a HDFC or a ICICI rather than a smaller AMC where the volumes are higher. But my limited point, even if it's a smaller AMC, replicating an index will never be because of liquidity will because not being able to replicate the index because of liquidity issues, that is very, very unlikely.
Okay. So can we get that information like how they are doing the Bajaj Alliance, how
I'll
they are
check.
doing?
So I'll check
Yeah.
on. See, what I do is I try to track the uh, index versus the fund's performance. To what extent is the deviation? So these funds have an expense ratio of about 1.3%. So if the index is delivering 15, let's say 20%, the Bajaj fund should deliver 20 minus 1.3, right?
Right. Right.
So far, what I have seen is they have the difference, if anything, has been lower than 1.3,
Right.
which basically means that they are not just being able to track, but they are being able to track to an extent where their stated expense ratio is less than, I mean, the difference is less than their stated expense ratio. So that's why I have never bothered to go and dig deeper in terms of whether they are investing in an ETF or whether they are they are manually replicating. I
Okay.
mean, right. So this is an exercise you can yourself do because the
Yeah.
Bajaj Nifty Momentum Fund, the NAVs are published every day, and the index closing is also available on the Nifty website. So how much is the delta on a daily basis that you can yourself do? We do that exercise
Okay. Okay.
ourselves, and what we have, as I told you, what we have found is that the delta is actually less than the expense ratio of the fund.
Okay. So this is open fund only. Anybody can invest, right? That fund.
The fund is open, but that
Yeah, I know
ULIP
this.
is
This structure and all will not get it if you directly
yeah,
invest. That I
yeah,
understood. But
yeah, yeah,
this is the same fund if I directly go or via
yeah,
your
yeah. The
alpha
funds are all
all
ULIP
same.
funds are all open. There is no exit load. Bajaj ULIP are very liberal. They allow you unlimited number of switch. So if you want, you can keep switching every trading day.
Got it. And one more question, sir, I have. So that's I know I'm not asking about this 3 years. What is the return, right? The historical test you did, right? That is
Hmm.
5 years rolling return. So
Hmm.
instead of 5 years, so assume the day you started this, like 2023, some day you started,
Hmm.
right? Assume you are running your historical system, with that is the starting day, and today or yesterday is the end day. How your historical system is behaving, and
Yeah.
how is your actual return? Is it
So
matching or
honestly,
not?
so we are outperforming not just Nifty but the momentum index, which we are using on the equity side by a big margin. Yeah, it's just that I don't we don't give out the how the strategy is performing during the course of, because the guidance that I'm giving you is for a 5-year period. During that 5-year period, how is the performance? That's something that I don't publicly state, and that's
Yeah,
why I
no,
don't.
I got it, but I'm not asking the return.
No, no,
So
but we
my
are.
question
But if
is
your
it matching
question,
with your
so are we? Are,
system? Yeah.
I can only tell you that we are by quite a margin. We are beating not just Nifty, but we are beating also the momentum fund which we are using on the equity side of that strategy.
Okay. My question is like, for example, your historical system is saying 20%, right? For your actual system, that is a back tested system. So back tested, is it back tested in future actual data? Is it both are matching or not? So you can still backtest, right? You can go and run your backtesting system, saying that
Yeah,
this is my starting date, 2023
yeah,
January 1st, and this is
yeah.
2023 January 31st is my ending date. You
Uh,
can run
uh.
the system, and you can actually compare actual results. Your actual,
So if you're asking in the last 2 years
yeah.
or 3 years, if my 2-year performance is in within the band of the actual backtesting result, very much so.
Okay.
Sir, in
Sir,
case of
Somebody who
alpha,
has
sorry,
हाँ देवेश जी
sir,
बोलिए.
sir, in case of AlphaSIP Pro, is there any option for a top up? If I am you, means I want to say, I am
अल्फा
using.
अल्फा लमसम में पॉसिबल है सर, एसआईपी में पॉसिबल नहीं है. In alphas, if you are doing a lump sum of we have 2 entry points, so 25 lakhs and 50 lakhs, तो लमसम करिएगा तो उसमें टॉप अप इज पॉसिबल. In SIP a top up is not possible.
Sir,
Oh,
is there any NRI tax benefit?
Sorry.
Is there any NRI tax benefit possible?
NRI, see, there is in case of NRIs, the only benefit is if you are based in one of these capital gains tax free in any of these locations like Singapore and or Dubai, where
UAE.
or UAE, where capital gains tax is zero. So
Yeah.
there, and if you are able to provide, you have to provide something called tax residency certificate (TRC).
Yeah. That is
Then,
available.
if you are able to provide that, then then there is no tax even if the investment amount is more than 2.5 lakhs.
Oh,
But you have to provide that there's some documentation that is required. This is see, this is not there in the tax laws. This was something that got established through a case law, because one lady who was based in Singapore, she liquidated her mutual funds, and India and Singapore have a double taxation avoidance treaty, and capital gains is exempt in Singapore. So Indian tax authorities taxed her on the grounds that this is a capital gains which is accrued in India. This is not covered by your DTA of with Singapore. She went to the court and she got a favorable judgment. And after that, another gentleman from UAE also had a similar situation, and he also went to court. And in both the cases, they have got favorable judgment. So, based on citing these cases, now, unless in the coming budget the government makes any changes, as of now, if you are in a Singapore or a Dubai kind of jurisdiction and you are able to provide a tax residency certificate, then all your capital gains are exempt.
So this certificate I have to
This year
give
you have to it costs
prior to investment.
there is some money that you have to spend to get the TRC, but मिल
that
जाता
I
है.
ना वो तो मिलेगा, बट वो इन्वेस्टमेंट के पहले देना पड़ेगा,
नहीं
इन्वेस्टमेंट के
नहीं
बाद
they mature at the time of redemption.
Oh.
Somebody who hasn't asked any questions. There are a lot of guests who have been silent.
Sir, I have a question extension to what the previous speaker asked. So, for example, there are two types of redemption. One is that you will be doing internally as per the strategy, and second is by the user, me. After 5 years, if I want SIP, even a small lump sum or a
Correct.
small every month, right?
Correct.
So the taxation hit where I have to put the TRC as a UAE resident will be at the end of 5 years, not by your change, right? Not your internal as a fund manager, you will be changing. That will not be under my.
No, that is tax exempt anyways. It's only for the redemption tax treatment.
When the amount
TRC.
hits my account, that time I have to show TRC.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Indraanil Rajendra here.
Sir.
My question is, basically, I have not understood. You have shown the backtesting result of a particular index, basically.
Yeah.
And last time you mentioned that you will be investing in 4 different funds. So is it that the 4 different funds that you have taken into account, it is replicating what this index is would be giving?
There are 4 momentum indices. So there is something called Nifty. So the funds which we invest
Nifty Alpha Fund.
There's something called Nifty Alpha 50 Index. So there's a fund which replicates that. There's a Nifty 500 Momentum 50 Quality Index. There's a fund which replicates that. There is a Nifty 200 Alpha 30 Index. There is a fund which replicates that. So there are these 4 indices which follow a momentum strategy or something similar to a momentum strategy. We basically invest in those 4 funds. All of them are index funds.
Yeah, so all these 4 funds together, they would represent the same results. What the backtesting results of this index would be is showing.
They have different.
Because why I ask this question is the index fund what you are showing has a quality mentioned in it. Basically, there are stocks which are based on quality.
Yeah.
So, is there a fund which you will be replicating where quality is being the key area?
There is a index called Nifty 500 Momentum 50 Index, and there is an index called Nifty 500 Momentum Quality 50 Index. These are 2 different indices. There is no role that I have or even Bajaj has. These are 2 indices. Bajaj only replicates these indices. By the way, in anywhere, if you see quality, my 2 cents, avoid if you have an option to do the Nifty 500 Momentum 50 Index versus Nifty 500 Momentum Quality 50 Index, do the one which doesn't have quality in it. Performance is usually better.
Okay.
So the other funds which I have not shown, so for example, the Nifty Alpha 50 fund has a performance which is even better than the one that I showed here. The worst case 24 and best case median case 35. The Nifty Alpha 50 index, I don't have the numbers handy with me, but there the returns are even better than this. So the reason I have not shown that is because out of the 4 funds, this Nifty 500 Momentum 50 Index is sort of the median case fund in terms of performance. There are 2 funds which are better than this, 2 funds which are worse than this.
Avoid to create high expectation.
Yeah, exactly. Always set lower expectations, over deliver.
That's much better.
Absolutely.
Sir, I have a question about the. You have said that every month end or first of the next month, you will go through your parameters and take the decision, right? What is the reason you have chosen 1 month? Because I know all this momentum funds rebalance every 6 months in their internally as per their Nifty the parameters. So why have you chosen 1 month and why not maybe less than 15 days because the market? So basically, why 1 month and not more or less?
We offer 15 days here. So we offer two frequencies. So if you go to our website, we have a AlphaSIP 2.0 tax saver, AlphaSIP 2.0 Pro, AlphaSIP 2.0 Pro Max. And even on the lump sum side, we have AlphaSIP lump sum and AlphaSIP lump sum Pro Max. So these the Pro Max versions have a 15-day rebalancing. So see, all we try to do is, for me, whether you go 15 days or 30 days or 45 days or 60 days is a function of, when I do the historical backtesting, the worst case and the median case. Does it improve or does it not improve? So my experience is that the best outcome is 30 days. From 30 to 15 days, the results improve slightly further. After 15, from 15 days, if you go to 7 days, the results actually start to fall. So that's why we offer two frequencies, 15 and 30. But for most people, I think 30 is good enough here. 15 से थोड़ा improve, about 1 to 2 percentage point का further improvement होता है. But it's not, 30 is just fine for most cases.
Okay, thank you, sir.
The liquid fund returns, how much we can expect?
So what we use is not the liquid fund. We use something called the Bajaj bond fund, whose long-term returns have been is about 7.5%. It's higher than liquid.
So sometimes we use liquid funds, sometimes we use debt funds, or we always use bonds only.
So the money, when it comes in first, gets auto invested in the liquid fund, and then we move it into the target equity fund, or if for that month, if we are keeping it in bond, then we'll keep it in the Bajaj bond fund. We'll not leave the money in liquid fund for too long.
Sir, is there a probability that in case of any financial or any distress situation, the fund might not allow you to redeem? Because recently in the news, the BlackRock news came in where they did not allow redemption
Entirely.
when you want to rebalance and it is not allowed.
See, in India, that's not possible because these are regulated entities. So the regulator will not let you do that. All those redemptions being stopped and all, these are essentially in the private equity space or hedge fund space where by definition the regulation is of a different order. You have signed up for that higher those risks in lieu of the potentially higher returns. But in a mutual fund or a ULIP scenario, the regulator will not allow you to do that.
Sir, apart from the expense ratio and the mortality charges, is there any other charges?
Thanks for asking that. I didn't. In case of so we offer Bajaj and HDFC. In case of Bajaj, apart from mortality, they have there's no allocation charge. They charge you 500 rupees per month under a head called policy admin charges. So 500 rupees per month works out to 6,000 rupees per annum. Over a 5-year period, 30,000 rupees for a 5-year duration. This is on top of the mortality charges. So the total, the chart that I showed you, this is the impact of mortality plus that policy admin charge of 500 rupees per month. Now, I often get asked this. So this policy admin is there in Bajaj. It's not there in HDFC. HDFC is a lower cost option. There is you pay only mortality charge and there is no other charge. Unfortunately, in HDFC we are accepting clients where we don't rebalance for new HDFC clients. So if you want to, basically my point is, if you want to do this investment only to avail the 2.5 lakh rupee tax-free investment, and you're not interested in my rebalancing logic, then you do HDFC. Because in HDFC, for new clients, we don't do any rebalancing. And HDFC is clearly a cheaper option. In Bajaj, it's a slightly higher cost option. You will pay 6,000 rupees annually more. This cost is not there in HDFC. Now, I often get asked this, but in Bajaj, I will do the rebalancing for you. And I often get asked this question that if you are this the 6,000 rupees charge is sort of an allocation charge through the back door. So why are you still offering a ULIP where there is this extra charge other than mortality? See, my logic here is again driven by pure maths. If you are doing 2.5 lakh rupee investment per year, in 5 years you have invested 12.5 lakh rupees. If your 12.5 lakh rupees, if your 5-year SIP has generated a return of 12.5% per annum, which is the Nifty's long-term return, which is the very least you should expect, then this 12.5 lakh rupees at the end of 5 years will become about 18 lakh rupees. So you have generated a return capital gains of about 5.5 to 6 lakhs. On this amount, if you do, this amount is completely tax-free. So had you done this investment in mutual fund through a SIP, on this 6 lakh rupee gain, you would have paid a capital gains tax of about 60,000 rupees, 60 to 65,000 rupees. Whereas in case of ULIP, there is no tax. So you pay, even if you pay, consider this 30,000 rupees additionally that you pay over a 5-year period, this 30,000 is still 50% of the tax saving that you get. So even after considering this tax, we believe that for the sake of availing the 2.5 lakh rupee tax-free investment, it's still worth it to invest in the Bajaj ULIP, even though that additional charge of 500 rupees is there.
So if you consider the returns from HDFC vis-a-vis Bajaj, would you take Bajaj would give a better return than HDFC, ULIP?
Bajaj, see, if HDFC doesn't, as of now, I don't have access to the momentum funds in the HDFC universe. If that continue, whereas in Bajaj I have access to the momentum funds. With the momentum funds, I am even with that higher charge, I think the outcome will be better in Bajaj. But if the Bajaj, see in HDFC, we are doing the rebalancing only for clients like you whom we onboarded last year, because to them we promised that we'll do the rebalancing. But because so there is something, so it so happened that HDFC initially promised to us that Bajaj basically gives us one automated tool through which we can do the rebalancing. I am, let's say right now at 60% equity, 40% debt. I want to move to 70-30. I have an automated tool where I just have to put 70-30 and the rebalancing will be done in one click of a mouse by Bajaj. In HDFC, what I have to do right now is I have to get a OTP from every client, do a login on behalf of every client, and manually do a switch. What HDFC had promised to us last year is that please start your business with us, and we will create an automated tool like Bajaj has created for you. Unfortunately, so far, for whatever reason, HDFC has not been able to deliver that automated tool to us. So that's why for new HDFC clients, we are not onboarding any HDFC client if they want the rebalancing, because rebalancing is highly manually intensive. So we are doing rebalancing for HDFC clients only for our last year clients whom we had promised we'll do that rebalancing. Hopefully, HDFC within the next 1 year or so, if they are able to create that automated tool for us, and the momentum fund also becomes available, we'll again resume onboarding people on HDFC also.
Sir, I have a query.
Yeah. Who's this? Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Phil here.
Hi, sir. Hi.
I just wanted to know, you are referring to, old customers of HDFC. So from which date does this apply, this rebalancing, the fact that you have stopped rebalancing?
No, we have not stopped rebalancing, sir. It's just that every month you are covered by the rebalancing. We will rebalance for you.
I just wanted to know the date from when you say new customers, from which date?
See, the last batch of customers that we onboarded for HDFC was around March and April of last year. So for all those customers whom we have accepted as our customers, we are rebalancing. We have stopped accepting new customers on HDFC.
Okay. And the new the monthly withdrawal scheme that you mentioned for in the case of lump sum investors, AlphaSIP 2. I just wanted to know, how confident are you that you'll be able to maintain those the same rate of withdrawal without eating into your principal?
I'm not. There's no. It's a back-tested strategy, sir. Firstly, in HDFC, I'm not sure I'll be able to do that, because in HDFC, the constraint is HDFC. So all that backtesting is based on if I execute the strategy using momentum funds. HDFC has not yet made any momentum fund available to us for their ULIP product. So without the momentum funds, that backtesting result doesn't apply. On the Bajaj side, am I 100% confident that I can give a guarantee I'll be able to give out those results? The answer is none of this is the guarantee. This is based on backtesting results. I am reasonably confident they should hold up, barring a black swan event where we get a correction which is worse than what we have ever seen so far in last 25 years. That possibility is always there with any equity product. So that risk you should always be cognizant of, which is why, especially if it's a retired client, I never ask them to invest their entire corpus with me. If you have 100 rupees, give me 50, keep the remaining 50 in IFD. But rather than for most retired people, if you're retiring at 60, if you assume a life expectancy of 85, 90, you're looking at almost 25, 30 years of investing life ahead of you. For 25, 30 years, you cannot do FD, where you will not even beat inflation after taxes. So instead of doing if you don't do FD, your other option is go and take equity risk. So instead of compared to taking naked equity risk in direct stocks or mutual funds, we believe that this provides AlphaSIP provides a far more risk-adjusted return potential for a retired person, because there's an overwhelming focus on protecting the downside with a very high potential of being able to deliver high returns also. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm reasonably confident we should be able to deliver, but don't treat it as a guarantee. I will never project it as some kind of a FD which will deliver 12% return.
No, that I understand, because obviously the equity market, you can't promise anything.
Correct.
The other thing I wanted to know is, do we have to opt for the monthly withdrawal option at the time of joining, or can we opt for it later?
No. You can opt after 5 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir,
currently
we have four factor funds, different factor funds, right? So you have some set of rules like when to choose which one, or
No. We have a flat allocation between the four at all times.
Okay. So we are always invested in all the factor funds.
All the four, yes.
So currently, which are the funds you have invested in for the HDFC ULIP?
So most of the funds that we use are their flexi cap fund, and there is a fund called HDFC Life Discovery Fund, which is their mid cap fund. This is what we use on the equity side. On the debt side, we use the HDFC bond fund, HDFC Life bond fund.
Right. Okay.
Do you also communicate like when you switch between equity to this thing?
We don't. No, from our side, we don't. to be honest, to a certain extent, that's also because we consider the switching to be our IP. So we will not proactively inform you. But I mean, finally, if you go and log in, and you will be able to see what is the current asset allocation. So you can keep track.
Okay. So if I want to invest for my wife, right? So can I take the policy with my wife name, and money can come from my bank account?
Yeah. So I mean, no. But money has to come from the investor's account. So you can transfer the money to her account and invest from her account, but the money will have to come from her account.
Oh, investor account only money should come.
Yeah. Any other question?
So how you will get rewarded? Is it because of the expense ratio of the
No.
funds?
So we get a brokerage from the mutual fund, from the ULIP company, and as I said, it's a flat brokerage. It's not linked to which fund I am investing. So I don't have a conflict of interest based on. I don't get rewarded more for keeping your money in equity than debt. So. So that's how it works. So that way I can take these decisions completely independently without any conflict of interest. In lump sum, if you're asking what is my brokerage structure, I get in case of lump sum investments, I get a brokerage on the value, a percentage of the total investment amount is what I get as a trail commission is what I get. But I get a trail on the whatever is the total size of the investment, irrespective of which fund the money is invested in.
Okay, so if I have to invest 2.5 lakhs, first year I have to do lump sum. Next year onwards, I have to do every month SIP.
It's up to you, but we recommend from second year you start doing monthly SIP.
Okay.
So Provariant has charge, correct?
No, nothing has charge. But Provariant has a higher investment requirement.
Okay, no special charge like PMS.
No.
2%
There's no
of
charge.
the capital will be eaten in the day one.
So right now we don't. For the lump sum, we will, from next financial year, we will introduce some kind of profit sharing from after year 5. So up to something along the lines of up to 12%, there's no profit sharing. Above, let's say if I'm able to get here, the worst case is 24, right? If I'm able to actually deliver 24, then usually it will be along the lines of above 12, whatever I'm able to deliver.
Watermark level.
Of that, I'll probably charge a certain percentage. But I'll decide next year. As of now,
So,
in the current financial year, any investment that is done, we are not charging anything.
Up to 31st March.
Up to 31st March, yes.
After 5 years of the investment, I can withdraw entire funds, right? And again, freshly invest. So it's not like only the first installment what I have made, that only I can withdraw.
No, everything. No, everything you can.
And assume I am doing every year a 10 lakhs investment. So after 5 years, I have withdrawn entire money. Now my capital gains treatment also will be like
long term.
Money is long term. Even though 1 month back.
So unless you're doing monthly investments, if then the last year's monthly investments would have not completed 1 year.
Okay.
So that part might get a short-term treatment. If you do yearly investment, then even that last investment will be at the end of year 4, and that would have also completed 1 year.
Okay, then better to do yearly than the last year.
Yeah.
At least
yeah.
An SWP can be done at the end of the 5th year.
In case of lump sum, we offer that. I told you, right? If we have a monthly payout option which is for retired people. You can invest. If you invest, let's say 50 lakhs, then from year 6 you can opt for a monthly payout of 50,000 per month, which will go up every year by 5 to 6%.
And for the normal ULIP, if it is up to 2.5 lakhs, then what happens after the 5th year?
So in ULIP, we don't have an option of a monthly payout structure. Yes.
So you have to withdraw the total corpus, or if you want, you can leave the corpus as it is, or what would be the
in
right
case
thing
of
to be done?
in case of monthly SIPs, this is a service that we are committing to do the rebalancing for first 5 years. At the end of 5 years, we'll give you two options: whether if you can continue with your SIPs, and we will continue to do the rebalancing, but there will be a fee that will be applicable. Alternatively, we will give you an option to withdraw and reinvest this in a new policy, in which case there won't be any charges.
Like
Sir,
if I
all
don't
the
want to
particip-
withdraw, then what happens to that fund?
It's tax free, right?
Yeah.
So it's tax free, and then you reinvest in another policy and continue with your investments. We'll do the rebalancing for you. Let's say you're doing 2.5, whatever you're doing 2.5 lakh rupee investment. At the end of 5 years, that value of you have invested 12.5 lakhs. The value of that at the end of 5 years has become 19-20 lakhs. You withdraw that and you reinvest the entire 20 lakhs as a lump sum with us.
Sir, what the
Or if I leave
percentage
the
you are
fund
showing
as it is an option for that? Or as and
You
when
can
required, I can withdraw the funds?
you can, but in the same policy, if you keep, then and you want us to do the rebalancing also, there will be a fees
Additional
after
charge.
5 years.
Okay.
The
Sir,
20
what
lakhs if we invest in the new fund, right? New this thing, right? So next year, every year, how much money we have to invest? The 2.5 lakhs every year. Can I continue with the lump sum of 20 lakhs? No, for
Sorry.
example,
What is
for
20 and
example,
what is 2?
yeah. Every year I'm investing 2.5 lakhs, and
Okay.
after end of the 5 years, assume that amount became 20 lakhs,
Okay.
and I have withdrawn the entire 20 lakhs, and I started a new policy as a lump sum. So for this lump sum, also every year I have to keep on investing something, or one time that 20
No,
lakhs.
lump sum. There is no recurring investment commitment. It's a lump sum is by definition is one time, right? It's
Okay.
a single premium
Yeah.
ULIP. A lump sum is a
Okay.
single premium ULIP.
And again after the end of 10th year, again I have to
Yeah.
withdraw and again I have to invest.
No. In a lump sum, you can keep. There is every 5 years there is no withdrawal requirement. In a lump sum, you can. See, there's a different. It's basically because of the brokerage that we get paid. In ULIP, we get a brokerage only in the first 5 years. There's no in case of a SIP. We get paid only in the first 5 years. There's no payout happens after that. So basically, it's for me that makes it difficult to continue servicing the client after year 5. In lump sum, I keep getting a brokerage throughout the entire duration. In the same way a mutual fund company pays, I get a trail brokerage. So once the money moves into lump sum, you can keep the money for whatever duration. You don't have to keep churning every 5 years.
But the money will be in the ULIP funds only.
Yes. Funds will always be the same, whether it's lump sum or SIP.
Sir, if we do annual one-time payment of annual 25,000 into 2.5 lakhs annual, will 5 times, will that be considered a SIP or that will
So
come
that's
as
a year.
lump?
That's a yearly SIP.
Okay, so but it will be SIP rule on that.
Lump sum means in that policy you have done it's a single premium ULIP. You have just done one single investment. There is no follow-up investment that you are doing. There is no requirement. You can do a top-up voluntarily, but there's no the investment plan doesn't require you to keep investing a fixed in a yearly SIP. If you miss a yearly SIP, the ULIP will become inactive.
But sir, to get the benefit of tax, it has to be 2.5 lakhs maximum per year, right? For 5 years.
Correct. Yes.
So that is.
No, it doesn't have to be at least 5 years. Beyond, you can continue beyond 5 years. You can do a SIP for 10 years, and at the end of 10 years, you can withdraw all the 10 installments will be tax free.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay.
Sir, we can do one more thing also, right? 5 years, every year we'll invest 2.5 lakhs. Okay. After the 5 years complete, we can open a new policy that also will invest 2.5 lakhs every year. Whatever the previously invested laddering kind of thing, previously invested thing, every year you can take out and put it here. That also we
Yes,
can.
doable.
Yeah, interesting. How long it will take the process, onboarding process?
Very quick, yeah. In fact, if you do now, this is the quickest end of the year. ULIP companies are under all pressure to meet their targets, so the underwriting process is also the quickest during this time of the year. Here, there are some documents that we need from your side. As soon as we get that, we will upload them the same day. It goes to the underwriter. Underwriter only tries to decide whether, based on your income, the insurance amount that you're seeking is within limits or disproportionate, because there are cases of insurance fraud, right? Somebody earning 2 lakh rupees trying to look for a 2 crore rupee insurance, and then the person is bumped off. So to avoid that, it goes to the underwriter for a decision. But the underwriter also gives a decision very quickly during this time, before 31st March. So
and the insurance benefit is 20 times, right? For example, I'm taking 2.5 lakhs investment.
10 times. 25 lakhs. Yeah.
Oh.
Any other question?
If I invest instead of 2.5 lakhs, 5 lakhs, I will still get the benefit of taxation of 2.5 lakhs for the first 2.5 lakhs?
No, so in that case, you should do two policies. You cannot do one policy of 5 lakh and claim tax-free treatment for half of it. You need to have a 2.5 lakh policy separately. And you need to have two policies of 2.5 lakh, and the first one will be exempt.
And two different names, right? Or same person?
No, same person can have two policies. One will qualify for tax-free treatment. If it is in two persons' name, then both are tax-free.
Okay. Yeah, very much insightful, sir. Thank you very much for your session. I never heard these kind of things from anybody like this macroeconomics. Yeah, first time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other question?
Yeah, sir, just one more thing. About this, the lump sum policy where you allow monthly withdrawal. You spoke about a 6% increase annually. So on what basis have you worked out that percentage?
Sir, see, what happens is the underlying math is, if the investment is able to deliver about 12 to 12.5% return, I should be able to take care of this. Let's say if you do 50 lakhs, in 5 years, this 50 lakhs, if I am able to deliver 12% return, itself will grow to about 70 lakhs. So from again 70 lakhs, 5 years later, I will start paying you 50,000 per month, which is 6 lakhs per year. So again 70 lakhs, I am paying you 6 lakhs per year, so I'm paying you at a rate of 8 to 9%. And the investment continues to grow at 12%. So then I can afford to grow that payout at a rate of about 5 to 6.
So you clearly worked out the maths.
Of course, that's my job, sir. I won't offer this if I haven't done. But again, I'm repeating, don't treat it as a FD of 12%. There are risks to it.
That I understand.
It's a market linked product, but I've done that math that it's doable. 80-90%, I'm 90% plus probability it will work.
Yeah, that I understand.
Sir, going forward, will Nifty give this 12% return, or it will be pegged at a higher single digit, maybe 9%? Because as the market is maturing, the returns will also taper down going forward.
I don't think so. As I see, I was telling, I think somebody asked this question earlier. Historical precedence says that Nifty is, it's more a emerging market versus developed market kind of a debate. and which currency is dominant in which decade. So in the first decade of this century, 2000 to 2008, USD was declining, weakening, and emerging market currencies were strengthening. In that decade, India and all emerging markets outperformed very, very strongly. So that was the decade when 2003 to 2008, the Nifty, the index delivered 35% per year return. The next decade, 2008 to 2020, that was a decade of US strengthening USD. USD was the strongest currency in the world and kept on strengthening. That was the currency decade in which emerging markets got crushed. The Nifty doubled in this decade, but the rupee value went from 40 rupees to 80 rupees. So whatever was gained by the Nifty in currency terms was lost. So USD returns of Nifty was zero in the second decade of the century. Now, at least the initial trends are that we are going back to a scenario where USD is once again starting to weaken. And if this trend continues, then we should see somewhat of a repeat of the first decade of the century. If USD weakens and weakening is always a very positive factor for emerging markets. So at least over the next 10 years, I am very positive about Indian markets, that I think the factors that are ahead of us, if anything, could ensure that the returns will be even higher than what we have got over the last 10 years.
But do you think the returns will be higher if the rupee continues to weaken?
In general, if rupee will have a 3 to 4% depreciation against the USD, first thing that could happen, I'm not saying will happen, is that the rate of depreciation, I think, will slow down over the next decade. As India's economy matures, the currency becomes more stable. It probably won't be 3.5-4%. It'll probably be 2.5-3%. So first, the rate of depreciation of rupee will slow down, and USD as a currency will start to weaken. May not be against INR, but as long as USD is also weakening against peer currencies like Japanese yen or euro, that is also very positive for emerging markets. Because think about it this way: any Indian company which has borrowed in USD, because USD denominated loans are cheaper, lower interest compared to an INR loan from an Indian bank. If the USD has 5 years later, when the repayment time comes, if the USD has weakened, the repayment obligation of the Indian company has gone down on that USD denominated bond, on that loan, right? So that's why whenever the USD weakens, which is what exactly happened in the first decade of this century, that was an unmitigated plus for emerging markets like India. So yeah, I personally think that the coming 10 years will be somewhat like that.
So it doesn't matter if the rupee weakens more than the dollar.
So as long as the rupee remains stable and the rate of depreciation, if we manage to slow it down compared to what it was over the last 10-15 years, I think that should be a very good sign for our equity markets.
Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else, sir?
Sir, we have a fair amount of weightage of IT stocks in our Nifty. I think it's almost 30%. So going forward with AI story coming into play, like how the things are supposed to play out.
Wrong person, sir. This is above my pay grade. Honestly, I have. I had a live session last week. I got many of these questions. I know it's a hard time for IT. I'm not an area expert, but for whatever, take my words with a pinch of salt. My personal take on this is that obviously AI will have huge implications for our IT companies. So there is definitely short-term pain ahead of us, especially on top of this, if we get a recession in the US, which is my base case, there will be demand destruction for these IT companies, which will make matters worse for them over in the near term. Having said that, I am not a outright pessimist here, because I also do believe that the people who run these companies are very intelligent people. They have huge amount of resources available to them. They will the reality is that AI is not here to replace coders. It's here to make the productivity of coders who are able to use AI many folds. So yes, headcount of these IT companies will go down significantly. No two ways about that. But is it that these IT companies will not be able to adapt and create new business models where their outsourcing models are able to do the same job with a lower headcount? I don't think it's going to be so bad. I think they will be able to figure out a business model over a period of time, and things will take care of themselves. I don't think that this is the end of Indian IT. They will hopefully be able to create a business model. But near term, there is pain for sure. No escaping that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Can we call it a day? We have a match going on. I don't know what's happening there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
But no rush. And anyone has a question, happy to answer. One last call for a question. Okay. If there's no question, thank you everyone for joining on a weekend. Really appreciate everyone joining in. Thank you so much. We'll be posting a recording of this call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.